I'm starting a world on just one island with one tree, one chest, and one goal. Surviving 100 days and building myself an amazing base in a world populated mostly by void. This is Skyblock Infinite, a randomly generated skyblock world with structures, dangers, and all sorts of treasure to uncover. And I'm going to take this world and build something awesome by the end of the video. And hey, if you want a piece of merch to celebrate this video, check out our two brand new designs. There's the Assassin Allay, believe me, that will make sense later, as well as your 100 days Skyblock blueprint to get you started in the world. Get them right now at legundo.store or down there underneath me in the void. All right, let's start in a very empty world. Day one. And I was actually pretty lucky to get a unique island, a jungle island, which meant I had a food source in melons available right away. I very carefully broke some of the cocoa beans to make sure I wouldn't lose those and collected the top layer of dirt, bringing my platform down a little bit, and then started breaking the tree. No! One log down, I was extremely careful to gather the remaining, and this wood is all I'm gonna have for a little while, so I need to play it safe. I made myself a wooden pickaxe and converted a lot of the rest into slabs, allowing me to expand the island further out so I could break the final few logs of the tree and hopefully catch all of the saplings that would fall down so they don't also feed the void. And it actually ended up that none of the leaves dropped anything even remotely useful. So thank you, Dr. Shog, for being smart about this. The one good thing that we have is that the chest does give a couple saplings. And this is all based on your seed, which is nice, which is why you see like all the other stuff around here. But this helps from bad sapling RNG, so we don't have to re-rack just yet. But I started breaking out a few blocks of dirt, putting down and breaking ice to get my first block of water, throwing down lava, making myself a rudimentary cobblestone generator. I took the first few pieces of cobble, made myself an upgraded pickaxe, mined a little bit faster, planted a tree so it could grow while everything else was taking its time, and then now I need to relog and make sure the replay mod is running so we can time lapse this. You're actually going to see a lot of replay mod in this kind of adventure. There's a lot of times where you just need to spend time and grind away just to make things happen. So be prepared for a slightly more artsy 100 days. But I jumped down into the water that I was allowing to run down into the void, putting down cobblestone underneath all of the dirt of my island, with the thought that this would allow me to preserve all of the dirt if I mined my way down. I did try to make sure that the island would stay completely flat on the bottom, almost drowning myself in the process, taking a lot of unnecessary damage really early when I don't have a good food supply. Oh, I hate having to do this. We should absolutely convert 2 of them into seeds, just so we have them. All right, we're back at full health. Let's have this growing while we're at it, actually, and get back to it. So I kept mining cobblestone throughout the night just to get a good supply going so we could start working on expanding our island, getting up to a full stack, working through the whole night to mine up as much as I could. I used some of those blocks to immediately get to the Nether portal that was right close to where I spawned, which is good. It has a bunch of lava inside, which could be useful, but the chest was the main thing I was after. While the gold chest plate there is nice, the chest itself is pretty good, but the biggest thing is probably that flint and steel. Allowing me to reliably place fire inside of a portal or other frames means I don't have to rely on wood lighting for other tasks down the road. I banked everything in the chest and continued mining cobblestone into day 2, where I was finally greeted by a second tree. I carefully worked my way up, clearing the trunk of that one, making myself a whole bunch of cobblestone slabs that I was able to expand the island even further out, making sure that I would catch any leaves that would fall. Oh, sapling, 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 I have sapling. It almost fell in the lava. That would have been bad. Sapling, sapling, woo! 2 saplings. We're net profitable. With now a sustainable wood source with saplings being dropped, I looked out at the other islands in near proximity, seeing that I had 3 other types of trees that I could get to as soon as I would start bridging off in those directions. And I'm gonna need a lot of cobble for that, so I kept mining away, just getting whatever I could and crafting it into slabs in order to 2x anything that I could potentially build with. I converted a few pieces of cobble into a hoe, expanding out the dirt on the platform, using the water from the cobblestone generator to hydrate farmland to plant some melons so I could have a little bit more food. Also being careful to put down a jungle tree with a bunch of cocoa beans on it, which I could also use to make cookies down the road, and a sapling so that I could grow another tree. Making the whole platform a little bit bigger that I could finally run and sprint around on, even though I totally shouldn't because I can't recover that saturation. I did a bit more mining on cobblestone, breaking a pickaxe, moving the chest a little bit further away, just so I could have that further away from the lava, breaking down the final few blocks of grass on the upper level to bring my whole island flush. From there, I knew I wanted to go out and get a birch tree, just have another type of wood and something else that I could double up on, but I also realized that if I got too far away from my island, mobs would start spawning as it was pretty dark out here at night. So instead, I spent a little bit more time mining cobblestone throughout the rest of the evening, making myself a furnace and cooking up one of my few precious jungle logs to make charcoal for torches that I could finally light up my home. That way, when I headed out the following morning, bridging my way towards the birch island, I didn't have to worry about mobs spawning on my way, and I could take my time. I actually made the bridge too wide just so I wouldn't accidentally risk falling off, making my way to some additional dirt and an additional log and sapling type, which is so exciting. Getting seeds for wheat, for cookies, bread, and other food supplies is really going to be helpful, making the platform big enough that as I broke down the tree and any of the leaves would start decaying, the saplings would drop to a place where they were salvageable, breaking down all of the dirt 1 block at a time just to allow me to expand out the island further. I only broke down half of it. I'll come back and finish the job later, making my way across the bridge and back home, planting down the seeds so that way that could start growing for additional food, banking the additional resources I had left behind, and then thinking about heading back and lighting up that island, and then realizing, well, what if I didn't? That would allow mobs to spawn, which could be dangerous, but also extremely useful. Getting drops from things like spiders could lead to string, which could lead to wool. Skeletons drop bones, which have so many uses. So instead, I started building myself a little checkpoint about halfway there with trap doors guarding me on one side. I put down slabs and everything just to make sure that mobs couldn't work their way in here, couldn't climb up the walls or around. And yes, I probably should have put this closer to where the actual island was, but I'm thinking this is just far enough away that I could avoid anything getting me and hide behind the trapdoors, which couldn't be broken by zombies. I made myself a little terrace of stone slabs, hanging a piece of glowberries from there, fed myself with my few remaining melon slices, and then got back to work mining cobblestone throughout the remainder of the evening, waiting for sundown. And with a pick broken being a really nice reset point, I went out to look at my very rough mob farm. There you are. That's a... Did that seriously just happen? Well, now I definitely need the bone meal, so let's pop this on and see if I can get this to work.
Would you like to buy some Gill Scout cookies?
Everything about this was a waste and I hate it all. Okay, we can get a little bit of food. I had to eat the zombie flesh to try to recover a little bit of the health that I had lost. I didn't like being as low as I was. I did give it one more try, trying to catch a skeleton's attention, only catching an arrow to the face and no mobs following me along the bridge. So I returned back home, breaking the sugarcane and the cocoa beans, which would hopefully lead to some food in the future, contemplating that I was in a lot of trouble. I did try sneaking back to the island one more time after seeing the skeletons despawn, carefully clipping the toes of a creeper, getting nothing as a reward, and walking back home with my tail between my legs. That was not worth it. That was not worth it at all. The following morning, I corrected the OSHA violation in the middle of my island, headed back over, collecting the remainder of the dirt, expanding out the cobblestone platform so that it would have more of a spawnable space for mobs to be able to pop into existence, and stairs down which would lead them to walk down towards me. A tree had grown back on my home island, which was a new refresh on wood which would be useful to me, grabbing all of the supplies, both cobble and wood, making a very rudimentary dark room along the way. I ran out of cobble about halfway through building this, so I had to go back and farm more, getting an extra sugarcane along the way, using every block I possibly could, trying to seal in the room to make it dark enough for mobs to be able to spawn here and only here. And you, dear viewer, might be thinking, oh, it's day 4 and Legundo hasn't slept yet. I wonder what's about to happen. What do I do? Oh God, what do I do? This is such a problem. Well, guess I'm staying here for the night. That's unfortunate. Well, the good news is the spawner's working, so that's promising. So with phantoms now threatening me from the sky, I have a whole new dimension of problems to worry about. I did try continuing to expand my little hidey hole structure, getting it a little bit closer towards the cobblestone farm, thinking that if I'm over there, I might as well be able to do something useful. I was out of cobble, so I had to use all of the jungle planks I had to build the structure, carefully moving from one roof to another, working my way over, and having my island look a heck of a lot messier for it, but finally being able to break some blocks and make some progress. And as the phantoms circled overhead and I'm hiding in a little hut on top of what little grass I still own to my name, the moon hung low in the sky and the sun rose, finally getting into day 3, where those little danger flaps would burn. And speaking of things that are absolute fire, why don't you go check out your new favorite Minecraft server, leg.gg. It's my server where we have 3 awesome things you could play. There's SMP Plus, which I did my whole undercover video on. There's Extraction, my new Minecraft event and game mode, which you can play, and SMP Classic, which we just launched this past weekend. You can play them all and learn all about it at leg.gg. I made some expansions to the security of the little checkpoint here, putting doors on both sides, going through and trying to lure a zombie to get a little bit closer, having one of them just barely make the trip over while in flames, allowing me to get the tiniest bit of XP. Now, how do I get over there without getting shot? That skeleton in there is genuinely a problem right now. I walked my way back over to my main island, figured I'm just gonna walk around, collect a little bit of sugarcane here or there, wait for the mobs to despawn. Once they did, I made my way down the bridge, replacing some of the dirt in the ceiling and replacing all of the walls, trying to get as much of that done as I possibly could. I planted both birch and jungle saplings, so I'd be able to grow multiple wood types for right now, using everything I had to enclose up on the walls, including using all of my dirt for the roof, which might not be the most efficient, but for the moment, I desperately need mob drops. I kept mining more cobblestone through the day so I could continue working on the wall, and it was working a little too well. Another skeleton! No! So I had to use some of that cobblestone to carefully build this little sideways hatch pattern to get closer to the skeleton, when I realized there was a different problem just starting to spark for me back at home. I'm in trouble. Okay. With my heart shaking and the last 2 hours worth of recording potentially being garbage, I finally got my first piece of wheat, which more importantly gave me 3 seeds I was able to plant for exponential growth, hoping that the cookie recipe was more chocolate than wheat, but unfortunately it's the other way around. So worried that I'm potentially going to starve to death, I hid inside my tiny little shack, mining more cobblestone throughout the rest of the evening so I would be able to have supplies to potentially work on the farm later. There was a ton of mobs spawning both inside and on top of the box that I had built. Thankfully, it was far enough away that none of them would pathfind to me, because even one stray arrow would likely spell death and the end of this adventure. I did carefully break down the trees whenever they would spawn, just so I could secure the logs and leaves right away, making sure to stay immediately back underneath a roof so phantoms wouldn't appear as I replanted behind myself. And that farm was productive, if not helpful at the moment. So many spiders. Okay, that's good and so bad at the same time. But once the sun was up, I continued my way back out. Thankfully, a lot of the skeletons had despawned or weren't paying attention, so I was able to work with the little sawtooth pattern, slowly making my way down the sidewalk, blocking off things with the wall and getting a single piece of rotten flesh, which isn't even enough to heal me, but it does make me feel better inside. Fighting creepers is immensely dangerous right now. If one of them blows up, that's likely the path underneath my feet gone. So I had to be careful here, slowly inching forward a few blocks at a time, eventually getting just close enough that I was able to build a bridge onto the roof to pick up a few pieces of rotten flesh that were still waiting here. Oh boy. Okay, we're gonna recover a couple hearts of health. The dangerous part being killing these spiders, as the only way I'm going to be able to banish phantoms is by making a bed, and you can make a wool from 4 string, which you can get from spiders. I punched the spider running back towards the doors, blocking it off so that there was never a 1x2 entrance that the spider could walk through, carefully killing it while it stayed on the bridge and got nothing. Drop rates are my enemy this time. But thankfully, I can now get over towards the spawn room and making a proper killing chamber. I don't have redstone or anything like that. I didn't set it up to be a drop kill, so it's a little slit in the wall and hoping for the best right now. I continued the tunnel backwards, putting down doors far enough back so that no light would leak through to diminish the spawn rates inside the box, making it a little bit lower so that mobs wouldn't see me and I wouldn't risk a creeper explosion, immediately getting a skeleton spawning inside who I broke my axe on trying to kill, but I did thankfully end up with a bone. Yo. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, we have a bow. We have a bone. We can have arrows. I killed my second skeleton, getting a bow, 4 arrows, and another bone, and I am sitting pretty right now. That cannot be understated, is massive. And I know it's inefficient, and that's fine. That's a creeper, and I'm not challenging that right now. Here's what we are gonna do. I'm gonna do something that is potentially slightly suboptimal, but more fun. We have food! Oh my god, we're gonna survive. Once my health had recovered, I ran back over towards that killing chamber since it had a roof and could protect me from phantoms, fighting any mobs that were inside, trying to get them to drop additional resources that I could use in this journey. I had forgotten to bring a weapon though, so I broke my pickaxe on a skeleton and then had to punch everything with my fist to kill it, which took a while. But I didn't realize I didn't have a pickaxe, which meant I wouldn't be able to break the blocks in front of me, so I had to head back and reuse my wooden pickaxe again to mine up 3 cobblestone to once again make myself a cobblestone pickaxe, and that is not the last time that I will do that. This time I was a little less careful on the walk over, spawning a few phantoms along the way, so I'm going to be camping in this room for the remainder of the evening, slowly working my way in block by block at a time, picking up all of the drops here, getting my first few pieces of gunpowder and another bone which I could turn into renewable food. So now that I had multiple bones, it means I had quite a bit of bone meal that I could use, and 9 being quite a bit right now. I mean, the world is a void, okay? Bear with me. 7 shots. 1, 2. That died from fire damage. 3, 4, 5, 6. Worth it. That's off the edge. String. Huge. Absolutely huge. But I used that to grow a lot more wheat, which I could craft into cookies and get more seeds for more exponential growth. Used one of the bone meal on my glowberries to be able to place a second, doubling up on production over there. I crafted up a whole bunch of food and I was very excited to get back to full health. But it had one other thing that it could get me. A bone can get you infinite water. And I don't know how many people don't know about this. So you can do this with just 1 bucket of water. You can take this. We put this here, we bone meal, we pick this up. That's now all water source blocks as well. We can put this back. We now have infinite water. That's a trick I've used before, and it's really useful. So keep that in mind the next time you're playing Skyblock. But I made myself a stone sword and headed over towards the mob farm, throwing a torch down in the way, which would prevent mobs from spawning, and then breaking an entrance, killing all of the spiders that are trapped in the corners, hoping to get some additional string. Picking up a melon back at spawn, which is the first time that's grown, so we could ramp that up once we have more space to be able to plant it. I have 3 string to my name right now, so another trip over to the spawner and killing a whole bunch more spiders, plus a few other things that were rocking around on 2 legs instead of 8, I ended up with another 7 string in my inventory. So I ran back towards home thinking I could do 1 more loop, stopping for just long enough to drop things off in the chest before I crafted up all of the string that I had into wool, making a bit more bone meal, which would allow me to make another glowberry that I could put in the chest to serve as a backup in case somehow the blocks ever got broken. I made myself some more cookies to feed myself through the night, staying in my little shack, watching the mobs off in the distance and really hoping a spider would spawn and persist through the evening. And as time passed and I was sitting there mining more cobblestone, the rain eventually subsided, leading into the morning of day 8. I headed over to the farm right away, not wanting any of the mobs to despawn, swinging at ankles with my sword through the little slit here, getting a bunch of drops, but no string. I tended to the farms, giving the crops a little bit of attention and mobs enough time to spawn in the darkness, returning back over, slaughtering everybody who happened to would spawn inside of the murder cube. The third time around, I remembered to bring a bucket of water, which I was able to put down to be able to force mobs back away from the wall, so I didn't have to worry about getting jumped from the left or right if I wasn't careful. Once I cleared all of the creepers from the space, I tried to take out the spiders who were camping in the corners. We did it! We have it! We have it! Okay. That has basically successfully done its job, and now we can exit the insomnia age and move forward to the actual first age. Craft wool, make ourselves a bed, and we can sleep. That is game changing. I didn't even need to zoom. I can just stick you up against the wall. There you go. Now you're zoomed. It is a little too close. So now knowing that I would safely be able to sleep through the night and not having to worry about base resources, we need to start thinking about the kind of tier 2 things. Space for crops, space for trees, space for shelter, storage, all sorts of things. We're exiting the very beginning of the world and moving towards the early game. So as I laid down to rest and finally dismiss the phantoms, let's get into the Stone Age. The following morning, I started my day by immediately breaking my sword at the mob farm. Once I crafted a new one up, I was actually not even here for the mobs. I mean, the bones, the rotten flesh, those will all be helpful, but I'm here for the dirt. I used it as a roof just to be able to get the whole thing enclosed earlier, but now it needs a much more important, more dirt-like purpose. So I was replacing the ceiling with cobblestone so I'd be able to get the whole thing set up again and be able to use that dirt for farming. I started making a little farming platform off on one side of my ever-growing space, putting it all down and realizing I had a friend here. Wait. Friend! Come here, friend. Get in the boat. Friend! I'm not alone on the island anymore. You are gonna make me so many nuggets. With the chicken secured, I mapped out enough of a farmland space that I'd be able to put down several different kinds of crops, throwing down all of the seeds that I had collected so far to ramp up on wheat production. I picked up a melon that had grown and cleaned up all of the wheat around the initial area, breaking down the little hidey hole shack that I had built, as now I can sleep through the night and I don't need to worry about that right away. I also broke down all of the dirt on the topmost layer, replacing it with stone, just so I could use that to expand out the farm even further. I had a few more blocks of dirt that I could put birch trees on. I moved the bed over just enough, slept as soon as possible, and the following morning, I wanted to get that chicken a friend. Ooh, egg. If we get a second chicken right here, game changing. Not yet. I'm planting cocoa beans on a few of the jungle logs and throwing down more separated blocks to be able to put jungle trees on top of so I could grow both of the wood types that I currently have available to me. I then spent a little bit of time making sure that the walkway over to the Nether portal was a little bit safer, just moving it to being 3 wide. I don't want to work with 1 wide paths whenever I can avoid it, making myself some other stone tools that I can continue expanding out. There's so few things in the world that things that rely on random ticks are actually moving pretty fast. I'm getting crops, I'm getting trees growing at a good clip. I'm able to dig down and break and collect all of the dirt that was down here. For a minute, I actually dismantled the cobble gen, throwing the lava in the bucket into a chest, breaking down all the dirt that was here and using that to actually expand out the grass patch, hoping that more passive mobs would spawn. I also set up a little snake of dirt because I want to lead a piece of grass all the way to 0-0 to kind of serve as the golden master of grass in my world. It's me. I'm gonna start a cult about something, okay? But I broke down a few of the crop spaces where I could replant sugarcane so that would continue to grow, and just continued expanding the platform out, migrating from slabs to full blocks and throwing whatever eggs I could find to hopefully get another chicken friend. I did kind of overdo it and realized I had put all of my blocks to use, so I had to go and delete the checkpoint to the very roof of it, also mainly to avoid mobs from spawning in there. Having a quick nap, which made rain stop because I am control of all weather, making myself a pickaxe and then a new and improved stone generator. And notice, I said stone, not cobblestone, and I'm actually trying to big brain this a bit here. Now, you might be asking yourself, why? Why did I make this abomination instead of a normal cobble gen? Well, this is actually gonna seem really silly, but that breaks just so slightly faster. Stone has a hardness of 1.5. Cobble has a hardness of 2. So it saves me about 1/4 of a second on every block that I break. Look, it might not seem like a lot, but that's gonna add up over time. The one thing we do need to do is put that there. And there we go. The only problem that we have with this is that occasionally the blocks will go up and into the lava instead of down and into my inventory. So while it's a little lossy, it is theoretically, mathematically, still a little bit faster, and will only get better once I could get up to iron to be able to get hoppers to be able to auto collect all of the stone. But way before we're talking about industry, we're still at animal husbandry, and I'm finally making some progress there. Chicken. Chicken! Oh, get in there. Oh my God, we're going infinite, baby. And while I was starting to grow in the number of chickens that I had, now a guaranteed infinite rate forward, as long as neither of them died before they reproduced, I was starting to come to a bit of a problem when it came towards my jungle trees. I was looking around on the map, just seeing what other POI were around. Things are hundreds of blocks away, so I have a lot of cobblestone mining in my future. But as I started harvesting each of the jungle trees, they started dropping fewer and fewer saplings, having multiple in a row drop none. And I was lucky, this tree finally dropped one sapling, but at best I was breaking even, at worst I was losing ground with each subsequent tree. And if I run out of wood overall in this challenge, that's gonna be a big problem. Sure, I have additional birch trees, so I'll be able to use it for crafting materials, but I started with jungle wood. I had a very jungle themed base in my mind as soon as I appeared here, and losing access to all of that could be devastating. The following morning, I figured maybe I'm a little too advanced for my time, so I thought, let's make one additional generator. This one is once again cobblestone, relying on lava flowing to the back of the waterlogged stairs that are powering the internal stone generator. And it requires me to kind of crouch and look at an angle, but I can keep an eye on all of my crops while I do it, so I at least have something nice to see. I crafted up a bunch of that into stone slabs, starting to do the math on what it would take to get towards one of those other POIs, and I'm gonna need several stacks of this before I'm ready. And while I'm busy counting, I'm not counting. Oh, I did it again. I did it again. Do me a favor, keep count of how many times I have to use that wooden pickaxe after already getting into the Stone Age, and leave a comment. I want to see how many times, and you all love to make fun of me. So there you go. I'm gonna point it out for you. But I kept harvesting on stone, chopping down any birch trees that were very generous with their saplings, watching those two jungle saplings like a hawk. Once one of them grew, I broke the logs and immediately tried breaking for a replacement. Come on, you need to drop a sapling. Oh my god, that is the last jungle sapling we have. That is one of our two big tree options potentially off the table. It is going to make that spruce all the more important soon, but that does not have a lot of leaves. Please grow, and please give me a sapling. Down to my absolute final jungle sapling, I just watched it and started getting more and more and more nervous. If that didn't at least replace itself, at best give me two so I could start moving in a positive direction, I was actually kind of in trouble. It wouldn't be great. I mean, it's not run ending. I still had another type of wood, thankfully. But I don't know, it feels kind of wrong to lose access to the thing that I started with and having to go with the second option instead. The following day, I was harvesting a lot of that second option, breaking down the grass blocks that had helped me snake grass towards 0-0, staring at that jungle tree and trying to manifest as hard as I could. I spent a little bit of time with the farms, making myself a whole lot more cookies that I could keep myself saturated and full, crafting enough slabs that I feel like I'm almost able to get there. Or I could start bridging today in the morning and make it there by tomorrow with a concerted effort of harvesting more stone. So I set off with a one wide set of slabs when I saw the tree finally grow. This is quite literally one of the most important things. I was about to say interesting. I hope it's not the most interesting. But to me, this is one of the most important things we're gonna have. And nope, there now exists all the jungle wood that will ever exist in this world. That's it, folks. That's all we have. I'm not gonna lie, that hurts a little. That sucks. I'm sad. I'm genuinely kind of sad. Losing out on additional jungle wood is a really big hit into building plans, into construction, into so many different things. Having cocoa beans growing on what is basically now an endangered or extinct species does make the cookies that I'm using as my primary food source feel a little extravagant. Overkill? I don't know the word. I'm losing it in the moment. But without jungle saplings, we were now a birch-based economy. So we had to be very careful to make sure that that depletion of resources would not repeat with our second wood type. So I did what most people do whenever they are encountered with a problem or a setback. I set out and left and pretended it wasn't a thing, heading out over towards the jungle temple, making sure to put down torches along the way so no mobs would spawn on the path that I was on, forgetting that I had to probably do that at home. With the floorboard secured from the underground spiders, I headed back up, put some additional torches around my base, slept so it would be daytime, and harvested a few crops in the morning, getting a win to kind of counteract the loss from yesterday. And we have our holy grass block at 0-0. The Skyblock. We're gonna pretend it's one block. It's not, but we're gonna pretend. I crafted up some of my very extravagant cookies and headed out on the bridge, heading my way in the distance, seeing a third big tree option through the fog, dark oak, being available a couple extra 100 blocks away, and I couldn't make my way over there just yet. But I'm crouched as hard as I could, holding down shift like my life depends on it, because it does, throwing down a very thin, gravity-defying slab of stone through the sky. And this is one thing I like about Skyblock Infinite, is that with POIs in the distance, there are new and different ways that you can acquire things, including this jungle nether portal in the distance just past the jungle temple I'm trying to get to. It has leaves on it, and if any of those drop a sapling, I have another chance. And having structures that spawn in the world allow for things like a combat challenge to happen intermittently when you find mobs that you have to encounter and fight. I really like it. There's a link to my version of the mod pack down in the description, by the way, if you want to download it and play, and a video of how to make it all work on my second channel. But I was starting to run low on stone, not completely out, but I had definitely miscalculated, being about 2 or 3 stacks worth of slabs short to being able to make it to the jungle temple. So I headed home and spent the remainder of the day just resource collecting, either mining cobblestone at the cobblestone generator, felling trees, or doing some combination of the two. I also made myself a little bit of fences that in the following morning I could encapsulate the chicken in their new home. Come on, you two, follow me. Get in. Come on, back here. Yay! Oh, we can make food now. And we have 2 more eggs. Let's see if we spawn another chicken. No. But what would make sense, so let's bone meal up a piece of wheat. And we can make our first baby. It's another thing we can go exponential on. So with infinite chicken now on the menu, as long as I keep up with my feeding requirements, I spent a bit more time collecting the resources, smelting down some of those logs to make torches so that I could secure the bridge, heading back out along the one wide bridge, seeing one of those combat challenges in the distance. That's a mansion. That's a mansion! Because there's a dark oak forest over there. That's terrifying, but also potentially really, really, really profitable. But that mansion is a fight for another day. Right now, we're just trying to get to this jungle temple. I made a small little platform that I could safely turn on, making my way over towards the jungle temple itself, being very careful as I was approaching as it started to turn to night, meaning that it was probably dark enough inside for mobs to spawn. And with the creeper greeting me on the other side of the wall, yeah, that theory proved accurate. I bridged my way up the sides, getting jumped by a skeleton in the main chamber who had an enchanted bow, and I did not want to mess with. Killing them, securing the roof, throwing torches on there so mobs wouldn't spawn, and then heading downstairs, getting the string, which I forgot that this gives string. It could have been useful towards those beds, but the thing that I'm really here for are some of the redstone components. Oh, I didn't even think about this. Bamboo is actually awesome in 1.20. Bamboo is actually game-changing right here. Bamboo is another wood type. You might not think about it because you think about trees, or if you played Minecraft way back in the day, but in 1.20, you can make bamboo blocks, bamboo planks, and you can use that to make a really cheap source of wood. So getting even just a few pieces of it means I'm back in the 2 wood game, and I have something else that I can work with that is very, very renewable. I spent a little bit of time breaking down some of the blocks in the temple itself, getting a little bit of free cobblestone that I could use to bridge home safer, but the mossy variants were really nice to have and gonna help me have some different decorative options, as moss still isn't available to me in this world yet. But I was looking out on the map, I realized I had another potential route to iron from a POI in these little blobs of sand in the distance. Another 400 blocks. These are buried treasure. I think we can go for buried treasure, but I think we have to do some work at home first. Please don't spawn anything on the bridge while I'm on my way back. So I made my way home along the bridges, banking all of the very valuable redstone components, the little bit of gold, redstone. Unfortunately, no iron from these chests, but we'll take what we can get. I planted down the bamboo, getting the first shoots of it almost immediately and allowing that to start going infinite, and slept as we can start moving into some new projects. So the next morning, I thought, let's build a proper mob spawner. I have multiple sources of wood now. I could probably build it pretty quickly, but in order to do that, I needed to demolish the old one first. This might not be 100% the most efficient use of time, but I really want the island and the base to be just what's functional and what we're using at the time. I am gonna build out additional farms, additional space on here, but I didn't just want a box floating off in the distance affecting the rates of the spawning of the main farm that I'm going to create. Plus, this farm is partially built out of those extremely valuable jungle planks that I had, which means that there is no way to replace them, and I want to collect and save every single one. With that platform demolished, I spent some time planting down birch trees wherever I could across the entire island on little blocks of dirt, harvesting up a little bit more wheat and making sure that the bamboo was being harvested regularly so it could go exponential. Once I had cleared out the ceiling of the spawning platform for the old mob farm and broken everything back, leaving a bit of a bridge, I'll use that at some point in the future, I kept harvesting trees through the night going into the morning, where I started making a new platform just kind of at the intersection of those two. I'm thinking I'll use that other platform for bridges or farms at some point in the future. I started building a shaft upwards. Now I'm doing every other block in order to save on some resources here. Almost all of the mobs that I'm going to interact with can't fit through a 1x2 space. Hi, it's me editing Legundo, or voiceover Legundo. I was wrong. I forgot spiders. I'll pay for that, don't worry. But I'm using water to get up a little bit higher each time, blocking everything off and trying to be very careful when I'm heading down that I don't die. This fall is enough to kill a player and most mobs, so I need to be careful here. This could be dangerous. I harvested up birch and bamboo as I continued building out the rings, making sure that I maintained enough supplies here to be able to just get everything going, and I wasn't fully ready as far as what I needed, so into the following day, it's more of a resource grind as we got started. But once I had what I needed, I'm swimming up the water on the interior, starting to build out the actual platform at the very top of it, which would have channels for water to direct mobs in towards the center. And I kind of inadvertently tested it. Oh my God. My life just flashed before my eyes. Oh, that was spicy. Okay. I took a little break from building just to calm my nerves, growing a few more chickens inside of their pen and then felling any trees that spawned so I'd be able to have the resources to be able to build out the platform itself. And considering my farm is almost entirely made out of wood, thunder is a bit of a risk. Day 19, and the platform is getting messier and messier. I will, in time, build out something that has more than enough space for everything I want to build and purely aesthetic areas, but right now this is function, not form. This island is so messy. But we need it. We're in the setup age. We need it. We're 20 days in. We're still in the setup age. Problem. I quickly dealt with the skeletons that had spawned inside the spawning platform, putting down all of the walls for all of the chambers, and then starting to mock out the template for the actual spawning platform itself. We're putting down trapdoors over each of the water channels, which will trick mobs into walking into the water, which will then lead them to their death, using a combination of cobble and bamboo and birch to make this thing look actually interesting. I know it's really a functional farm, but this thing's gonna be around for basically ever, and I want to make sure it looks good. I spent some time harvesting a little bit more bamboo, a little bit more wood. I gave some seeds to the chickens to make more, and then headed back up to work on the platform with some more trapdoors in my pocket. I got to the point where most of the floor of the spawning platform was complete, but I didn't have enough materials for the walls and ceiling, and I didn't want to enclose it just yet because that would be a little dangerous a little soon. Day 20, we're really in the grind to get this thing done. I was harvesting all of the different supplies that I had, building out the wall, and using some infinite water sources that I made up here in the actual spawning chamber to be able to get enough water in place to be able to have all the mobs led in. Getting to the point where 1/4 of this thing was half covered and the rest was a little undone. But it was just enough that a few zombies walked across the bridge later into the evening, telling me that it both worked and the drop was not quite deadly enough yet. Day 21, amongst all of the other chores and everything else I had to do, I was able to get all of the materials in place to complete up a lot of the ceiling, getting a good chunk of the thing functional and ready to go, with trapdoors in place over all of the killing chambers. I made myself a little water channel which would allow me to swim up on the outside of the platform so I could get up and do some additional maintenance on here whenever it was necessary, heading down thinking we'll do a nighttime test since I won't need to worry about block light right away. Oh, I think that just worked. Yeah, it's working. Things are spawning. All right, you need to make it that they don't die. I'm gonna mine cobble here for a while. Cue the replay mod. But I worked through the night, doing odds and ends and chores around my island, still collecting a lot of my resources manually as I don't have the means to be able to actually automate this going forward. In time, I will. This island will become a symbol of industry, of creation, but not quite yet. But I was feeling like I had made some major progress. All right, time has come to reward myself for all of my hard work. Breed up all the chickens here. I've been working very hard, and it is the morning of day 21. I deserve a good meal. There we go. A proper meal for once. With my stomach finally actually satisfied from a meal. I mean, come on, I'm a carnivore, okay? I headed over towards the mob farm, getting a few drops of every different type. Remembering that baby zombies are a thing, I put some trapdoors along the very bottom of the spawning platform and then headed back up into the roof of the farm to be able to seal it all in. Once I had put in all of the cobblestone, that everything was closed in, I put bamboo over where the chambers were so that if I ever wanted to go ahead and add a second layer, I would know exactly what I would need to mine out to have everything work nicely. With some torches in place, I swam back down the water and started to let this thing run. Okay, spiders are a bit of a problem. Oh God! That scared me so much. And I was getting some initial mob spawns. They're still a little sporadic, not everything is fully 100% ready to go, but things are popping in. I put down some slabs so that not every mob would die, as some were dying, and one of the main things I want from this is XP right now. And as soon as I stepped away, the mobs started falling at a furious pace, but my slab edition had opened up a new flaw in the build. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay. Oh my god. The killing platform requires some work. You know it works though. That's reassuring. A little too well. But cool. That's a good start. Basically, building a skeleton turret on the middle of my island doesn't seem like a long-term keep yourself alive strategy, so I'm gonna have to do something to fix this, or else it's gonna probably lead to my death. The following morning, I slowly worked my way across the bridge, putting down blocks to keep myself out of sight of the skeletons, throwing down just enough blocks to close off the very bottom of the chamber so that everybody's eyeline was blocked. Oh my god. That is 24 levels almost instantly, and I think I got 2 carrots out of that. That's a new thing unlocked. Carrots are huge. And that is 1 layer. Can you imagine if I built 2? I spent some time trying to figure out how I was going to deal with the spider problem, as well as making some storage that I could keep over right next to the mob farm, so I'd be able to hold on to all of the drops, because basically all of them are valuable to me right now. I spent a little bit of time killing everything that would drop, trying to find exactly what was the height that would work, experimenting with both trapdoors and slabs, and dealing with the occasional spider that would escape the killing chamber. Trapdoors proved a little too far, so I had to rely on the slabs right now, and that's good. That works for when I'm gonna add hoppers to this later, once I can properly get into the Iron Age. And this farm can help me do it. Zombies have a very low chance of dropping an iron ingot on death, so if I can just make sure I collect all of those and I do it 5 times, that could then get me a hopper where I could start automating things. But that's not the only thing I need from this farm. While it's good for basic supplies, it can also get me zombie villagers, which can spawn naturally. And if I can get one of those and a witch at the same time, I can cure a villager and unlock so many things. But we're not there yet, and I'm still getting excited over some tubers. Oh, another new item. Potato acquired. That's probably the best thing we could have asked for right there, actually, because now we can bone meal. That is a whole host of new crops and foods that we just unlocked. We are officially in the mid-game. Now, supplies aren't really going to be a huge issue. It's more about specifics. Iron! Oh, wait a second. That's our first iron ingot. I literally just wrote about iron in my notes. I didn't think it would happen today. We have our first piece of iron. Now, we need like a whole lot more. That is massive. We also have pants, so we're advertiser friendly finally. Day 24, I installed some fences into the drop shaft so that spiders would get caught on the slightly less thick block, so they wouldn't be able to crawl their way out. But as I was doing that, I heard the telltale, I don't know what sound they make, okay? But I held the telltale growl of a zombie villager. So I moved up a little bit higher, blocking up the killing chamber a few blocks up, then carefully going back down to the very bottom, and then killing every other mob with a single hit, which was relatively easy, as they were all on 1 heart. I threw down a boat, dealt with a few spiders that were escaping, and then lured the zombie villager out of the killing chamber and into a boat. And since they're underneath the shade of the mob farm, there's no risk of them burning here. Okay, secured. Wait, did I get a music disc? I have 2 records. How did I pull that off? There's 2 more in there. Yo, Legundo streamer luck. I did take the time to get those additional 2 villagers out, and having 3 is an awesome insurance policy on top of everything else I've set up so far. It makes me feel really secure about getting into the villager age pretty soon. And then I had even more visitors. Oh, wandering trader friend. Oh, if only you bought something I could sell. If you bought sugarcane, I would have been so happy. And then time for, well, they broke my boots. No. Sorry, I can't have witnesses. You just see yourself out. Goodbye. So after those murders, I spent a little bit of time resetting, cleaning up the dirt and the extra bamboo blocks that I had planted, resetting and reopening the farm, having a couple close calls from creepers as the eye lines lined up just enough that they almost exploded. Spending a bit more time at the farm before thinking I really need to move into golden apples if I'm gonna be able to do anything. So it's just block collection for the rest of the day, getting whatever I can and setting up some better food sources. I'm cooking up some potatoes into baked potatoes to make a reliable, high saturation food source, harvesting a few of the chickens to be able to get some protein along the way, and starting to plan my route and expedition to my next POI. I used a lot of the bone meal on the bamboo to be able to have that grow, crafting a lot of that into planks and into slabs, getting things a lot faster than I could with cobblestone mining, and hoping that this is the most efficient path forward to a whole lot of blocks. With some birch logs also in my pocket, I grabbed a crafting table and we started heading out, running down the 1x1 bridge, hitting up the first jungle temple before going out past it and heading over first towards the buried treasure locations. You see, I still do need an apple, but something I need just as much, if not more, is iron. If I can set up an automate collection of either the stone from my cobble generator or the mob drops, that means there's basically 2 of me always working, and I'm not only doing things manually. Please have iron. Oh, it's so good. Okay. So that is a hopper. That is 1 hopper, but more importantly, 3 diamonds. I can open up that nether portal, which is huge. I am realizing in this moment, I came all this way with no torches. This is about to be a very dangerous ride back. Oh, okay. Insult to injury, why don't you, game? I think I lost a sand along that way. I did. Okay. Let's go! Okay, even more iron. Some TNT is actually huge here. With both iron and TNT from these buried treasures, I had a lot of opportunities just opened up to me. The only tricky thing is having to get home. What would have been smartest would probably have been staying up on there, having the high ground instead. I mean, like Obi-Wan warns, but I headed down the bridges, trying to head over towards the jungle temple, which would be the most enclosed and the safest, getting pincered at the turn of the farms, trapped by spiders and skeletons on either side. So I quickly made myself a shield to protect from arrows, investing 1 of my precious few iron, putting up some little sawtooth catches so no spiders could run over the walls and melee me instead. And this was a prison of my own design. A little platform with little 1x1 bridges heading off of it, the rain falling on my head, and mobs that normally aren't much of a threat, but could send me into the void with a single shot. This is where I spent the entirety of night 26, waiting for the sun to come and save me. Once my solar savior had arrived, I ran along the bridges to work my way back towards base. I banked all of the valuables in the chests, kind of setting myself to not use those diamonds right away as they would be really rare. Spent about 30 seconds chopping bamboo and then immediately used the diamonds to make myself a diamond pickaxe. We can't use exclusively this, we can't afford to, but it lets us turn that on. My favorite gag in any video. With the portal now viable, I first focused a little bit more at home, using all of the bone meal on the bamboo to convert into a whole bunch more planks and therefore slabs. Heading over towards the mob farm to be able to get a whole lot more bones, but this time not exactly for bone meal. Instead, I want to use this to have a block that is moderately blast resistant and is inflammable. And that, my friends, is bone blocks. Oh, is that a health potion? It is. Oh, that's actually huge. I fought mobs throughout the night, getting jumped by spiders a couple times, and on the second one, learning my lesson and thinking maybe I should go get some sleep. And the following morning, well, oh my God. What just happened? I have no idea why that creeper insta-exploded on impact with the ground. Maybe somehow their detonation button was on their toes? I don't want to think about that. But I quickly ran to just block off whatever I could right around the spawn. First things first was just making sure that I was making a box, dealing with a constant flow of mobs who were just walking their way out of the killing chamber and could explode and kill me if I wasn't careful. Once I had gotten enough blocks in so that everything was secure, I just kind of boxed up the very bottom of the chute, leaving it fully solid, running back and catching my breath. Okay. That was genuinely terrifying. Oh, there goes my zombie villager. Oh, I just realized that lost me my zombie villagers. But it did steal my resolve into needing to make the whole thing automated. Instead of leaving mobs waiting for my murdering hands at the bottom of the chute, they should just die from the fall and give me all of their goodies. I crafted up 2 hoppers. Breaking and placing those, they would feed into a chest on the front of the mob spawn. Now, half of whatever dropped from all of the creatures here would automatically be collected. It wasn't everything, but collecting half of it did mean at least some part of this was fully automated. And now I could go ahead and make myself other blocks and do other things while the farm runs. I murdered an escaping chicken, crafted up a few more bone blocks, and did a bit of general inventory organizing before realizing that the bamboo was on fire. Something must have caught in a little bit of a spark from the lava and was slowly spreading around, but it was quick enough to be able to remove that I was still on track to do what I really wanted to do today, lighting the portal and heading to the Nether. All right. Let's see what we have to work with here. Once on that side, I used all of the bone blocks to get everything in place, and you know where I spawned. Okay, it's a basalt delta, because of course it is. That, however, very promising. At this point, I don't know if this is a statistical anomaly of how I always spawn in a basalt delta, but I always do. But I gave up for now, making my way back home, taking a quick nap, and then focusing on turning the beginning of the next day into resource collection. I broke down a ton of trees and bamboo, getting myself a bunch of slab blocks, but then realized it's the Nether. I should really go with something that's non-flammable. So I actually thought I needed to automate the system, and having the stone generator still being a bit lossy, I went and grabbed one of the hoppers from the mob farm, transferring it over towards the stone generator. Now, as long as I immediately break the left stone, it's immediately picked up by the hopper and never has a chance to burn, making it 100% lossless, and I can just stand here letting it go, getting slabs by the bucket load. I harvested up a bit more potatoes, using bone meal to grow more to make sure that I would never run out, getting a bunch of baked potatoes in my hand, and then heading over to the Nether. Starting to bridge out from the bone platform, heading towards the fortress in the distance. Once I saw the fog change, it was clear that we had exited the basalt delta and were now in a nether wastes. My problem right now are on the fortress itself. With that many blazes guarding the fortress, we need pretty much all inflammable blocks, and we're gonna need to make something a lot bigger than a 1x1 bridge because just a single fireball will knock us down into the void. So I spent a good chunk of the remainder of the evening mining up a ton of cobblestone. And while the day passed, the mobs continued to die horrible, painful, gravity-oriented deaths, and the chickens sat in their pen completely undisturbed, I started gearing up because once we would be able to take on the Nether and unlock potions, we're in business. The following morning, I smelted up some logs so I could make myself a few torches, heading back to the Nether, making the platform safer as it was all lit up, and lighting up my bridge till I got to the point where I needed to expand everything out in the Nether wastes. I made just a little bit of a home base platform, a midway station for right now, dealing with a few magma cubes along the bridge, and then making a 3-wide version heading back towards the fortress. And it feels a little overwhelming right now. This is so many mobs. Oh my god, this is terrifying. And there's no easy way down either, because it's the Nether. We don't have any way to descend. We can't use a water column, so we're gonna have to like jump. I did run out, so I ran back, mined a whole bunch of stone, and then made my way back to the Nether, almost immediately being set on fire, setting up a little bit of a safety guardrail wall on the left as I built my way closer and closer to the fortress, finally getting to the point where mobs could actually see and shoot me. Nope, nope, nope. Dang it. I did nick a piglin with an arrow when I was trying to take out the blazes, so all of the zombie piglins right here were trying to eat my face. I was able to bow them down, shooting the skeletons off the area that I could drop down onto, dropping down, mining a bunch of nether brick, and immediately making a staircase back up towards my bridge. This would give me an escape route if things got too hairy, because they almost certainly are about to. I did end up running out of ammunition, but thankfully I was able to drop into the fortress, killing a few piglins that were standing on top of a chest right here, grabbing just a few items from the chest before I thought I should turn around. I need some more blocks and some more supplies, so I popped back into the overworld. I immediately made another hopper with the last piece of iron I had acquired, putting that back into the mob farm so I'd be able to be back up to the 50% automated collection level, and thought while I'm still waiting for supplies to gather and blocks to go, I'm gonna go ahead and expand this farm a little bit. Bone blocks are proving to be extremely useful for me as a renewable building block that is non-flammable and very easily farmable. And without something like a TNT duper, there's no easy way that I'm going to be able to get more of other things. But I also wanted to improve the efficiency of things, so I went in and put some carpets down in different places on the lower floor, which were basically designed to prevent spiders from spawning. This would mean that more skeletons would be spawning by proxy, as it was one fewer mob in the pool. And as I was going and heading back over to the stone farm, mining up more of that and using a bit of bone meal on the bamboo, the farm was running and zombies and other things were just dropping to their deaths. Once I felt like I had enough of everything that I needed, I headed back to the Nether, and I was surprised with some new friends. Another question, are you mad at me still? Or has the hive mind forgiven? Okay, we're good, we're chill. Awesome. Dropping into the fortress, I'm being very careful to make sure that I'm blocking off the hallways so that there's only 2 high entrances through most of the ways to me. This prevents wither skeletons from being able to get too close to me, which in killing them does provide coal and another source of bones. But I'm here for the blaze rods, taking out a stray blaze to pick up my first, and then checking out a few of the other tunnels here, mining up a whole bunch of nether brick that I'll be able to use for additional builds down the line. But while I'm able to neutralize wither skeletons with just a couple blocks, this fortress is still pretty dangerous. This right here is the scariest part of everything we've done so far, because I know that there are wither skellies on top of me. Come out here, bait them. Diamonds is super useful. That was also way closer than I care to admit. Being extremely low on food, I started working my way back, dealing with a few other mobs, clearing out some random sporadic chests, and picking up all of the nether wart that I can to enable potion brewing for myself down the line. With that, I employed the telltale tactic of survival of run away and hide! Making my way back through the portal and immediately going to bed. The next morning, I was cleaning up a little bit and collecting supplies using the bamboo to build a little bit more of a platform around 0, 0, as that's where I want my base to be centered around. I mined up and smelted a little bit of the cobblestone into stone. You'll see why I'm using that in a little bit. Getting more of the platform in place before realizing that it's going to travel directly underneath where I currently have the chickens, so I'm gonna have to wait to finish that. I chopped out the center of the stairs up towards the nether portal, putting nether stairs there because it feels like it just kind of thematically fits. Doing a little bit more work with all of the trees, smelting more for charcoal that I'd be able to light up the expanded platform as I was making it. From there, I'm just collecting a little bit more on all of the veggies, cooking up some more baked potatoes, killing a whole bunch of chickens, and then throwing down slabs so I'd be able to kill mobs for experience, and also specifically hoping to find a new zombie villager. The carpets definitely seem to be affecting the farm in a way that's making it less efficient, and I don't have a free cam or anything else like that, so I can't check exactly how. I did take one of the blaze rods and I crafted up a brewing stand, throwing down some of the nether wart as well so that could grow passively. Mining up more cobblestone before going to sleep and getting back at it the next day, clearing out the mob farm, seeing no zombie villagers waiting inside. Considering the carpets weren't really helping and wool is still useful to have from all of the string, I went down to the lower level and moved all the carpets around, trying to give a different orientation so that the carpets weren't close to the edge that I was trying to get the mobs to walk off of. Heading up to the second layer and using a lot of the bamboo blocks that I had been crafting and the birch to make a second level platform. I only had enough wood for about half of the sideways paths to be covered in trapdoors. It's something I'll go fix later. And that immediately worked, having a whole bunch of mobs waiting down at the bottom, including a witch. Now, I understand I probably should have captured that witch right now. I mean, capture them when you have them, but I really want to get villagers first, and I'm hoping with twice as much spawnable area that I'm gonna get a whole lot of spawns regardless, and things are just gonna be fine. I was able to finish enclosing the top level of the spawn platform, heading down and having that immediately put a lot more to work. This farm is loud. We're reducing the volume pretty significantly here for the video. The next day, I thought I'd change pace so I wasn't doing the same thing for too long in a row, and bridged my way over towards the jungle nether portal that serves as kind of another connection hub between where I am and the next set of POI I can get to. Up here is a whole bunch of lava, some magma blocks, and some netherrack that I quickly mined up, grabbing some iron bars, which was a new item, and some iron nuggets, just short of enough for 2 ingots. I then spent some time breaking all the leaves, really hoping to get another sapling. Despite the jungle temple being closer, I do think the mansion is going to be far more impactful on my playthrough, as that's a way to be able to get dark oak saplings, which can lead to apples if I'm lucky. I mined up a few pieces of obsidian just to have them and ran home along the bridges, crafting up 1 iron ingot from all of those nuggets that I was collected, throwing eggs off into the void and clearing the spawner, hoping to see a zombie villager appeared, eventually getting one and blocking everything off with bones, going through the arduous process of killing everything else in a single hit before hearing it die, probably from entity cramming, and immediately killing everything in the chamber. Oh boy. Day 36. I'm getting tired of the spiders coming and attacking me despite all of my best efforts, so I figured let's actually seal the drop chute all the way. I'm doing alternate patterns of wood and bone blocks, so it still has that sort of concentric rings feel that I was originally hoping for, while being a little bit more mob safe and not allowing spiders to crawl out and eat my face. I threw down water so I wouldn't have to worry about falling, and I'm using scaffolding thanks to all of the bamboo that I've collected, which is serving as a wonderful block for allowing me to move around vertically here and do so in a safe way. I kept clearing out mobs whenever a big chunk of them would spawn, hoping to get a zombie villager, but getting a few other rewards instead. I spent some time organizing the chests and throwing chickens off into the void, trying to smelt up some iron bars, but unfortunately, you can't smelt those down into a nugget as you can with some pieces of iron gear. But I kinda did smelt down the iron gear, taking one of the iron ingots that I had and finally making myself a stone cutter. This is going to make all of my work with getting stone slabs a lot faster, because instead of needing 3 to craft, you can just take 1 and cut it into 2. It's not even more efficient, it's just faster, so I'm happy with it. But with a quick little bit of netherwort harvesting and a quick nap, I'm off into day 37, where I'm gonna go into a bit of a tangent here, okay? I spent a bit of time grinding up a few extra stone at the farm before downing all of the water breathing potions, mainly for the bottles. I filled them with water and then threw some blaze powder in, brewing up some fire res potions with the magma cream that I had collected from my last run in the nether, taking a bit of the redstone that I had gotten from the witch to extend those to 8 minutes. I killed a bunch of mobs just so that the mob farm would be reset by the time I got back, and headed off towards the nether, expanding out the central platform that I have as the kind of midway station to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and potentially spawn some piglins while I went and did some other stuff. I downed the fire res potion and then made my way over towards the nether fortress, killing any blazes that I saw and dropping into the structure proper. But I'm actually here looking for something that just spawns in the corridors. I'm looking for mushrooms. Now, I'm killing any blazes that I see, mainly for blaze rods, and so I don't still take incidental damage, killing any magma cubes so they won't jump me. And while I'm seeing a lot of red mushrooms in the moment, I'm not seeing any brown ones. And you might be screaming at your screen, you don't get brown mushrooms in a nether fortress in a nether wastes biome. And you're right, but I didn't know that at the time, and it was late at this point. I really shouldn't play Minecraft at 1 a.m., but I followed through most of the nether fortress, clearing out a lot of the different tunnels, getting a lot of blaze rods, so that's good. I'll have everything I need for the future, but I didn't find any brown mushrooms at all. So being down to my last potato once again, I started making my way out, running along the bridge, getting to the portal, and warping my way back home in the middle of the day, throwing more chickens into the void, and making more sacrifices. Basically, I'm just really trying to avoid needing a witch for a weakness potion and seeing if there's a different way that I could get towards it. A brown mushroom would be great as I have everything else, but it's not looking promising. So I spent a little bit of time at the mob farm, then at the stone farm, getting up some more slabs and everything ready to go, doing the math and thinking that I need about 6 stacks of stone slabs, and try saying that 3 times fast, in order to make it towards the mansion. So I kind of just reloaded textures and let the pickaxe work for a little while, harvesting up bamboo to be able to make some bamboo slabs while I was at it. That was the end of that recording session for the night. So in the morning, I kind of forgot about bridging over right away and instead started focusing on expanding the platform, taking all of those stone slabs that I had made, thanking myself from the previous night, and then just expanding it out, making a better 5x5 space a little bit further away from 0-0 on sand and dirt to expose the grass to hopefully get a few passive mobs spawning. I went over towards the mob farm, clearing that out, picking up a few melons, harvesting some stone and some bamboo, getting an ocelot spawning. So this is kind of working. I threw some torches around the platform, heading over to the spawner to keep checking on that, picking up a pair of really awesome boots. But footwear aside, we had a long walk ahead of us the next day. I used all of the bone meal that I had to make more bamboo, to make blocks, to make slabs so that I would have enough. And then it was time for a very long walk down a 1 wide bridge, making my way all the way out to the portal, making that a little bit safer, and then heading to the bridge where I crouched as hard as I possibly could and slowly backed my way towards the mansion. It took almost all of the supplies that I had. I made it there with under a stack of slabs to my name, finally breaking into the wall, and luckily ending up in a room that was pretty easy to secure to make a beachhead in this structure. There's a bunch of flowers there, so that's already a big win. It's a bunch of new colors and dyes that I could make for myself, but the sun was starting to set and I hadn't spawn-proofed the bridge behind me, so I used a lot of the wood from the walls of the structure here to make myself a crafting table and a chest, throwing down some torches and starting to secure the rooms immediately next to where I had entered. The first being one of those maze rooms that you can go in and clear and fight the mobs all the way through, or just kind of dig through the walls to make some progress. There we go. Ooh, and an armor trim, but that is huge. Now we actually can get a villager and a witch, because now we can cure one. If we can get 2 of these, we are set. So I have to play this safe. I put down water at the entrance to each of these rooms, standing inside it, as mobs can't fight the flow of water as well as I can as a player. So I can just kind of swim away from dangerous things, throwing down bone blocks on top of the carpets to make impassable barriers so that nothing can come down the hall as well. Spent a bit of time clearing out the torch room here, picking up all of the carpets, which will be useful for decoration, making myself a bed from a few pieces of the wool from the statue that I had harvested, sleeping so that the night would end and it would be a little bit brighter out in the world. I made myself a furnace so that I could start cooking up some of the logs around here for charcoal, which I could then turn into torches, which means I can actually go in and secure these rooms, but the mobs were fighting back. But going in and securing the pillager statue room wasn't just for a bunch of different types of wool. There's a secret hiding inside. There's a block of lapis in here, which upon collecting it opens up a whole bunch of new items for me, allowing me to get to enchanting. And the next room over had a bunch of pumpkins in it as well, which is a whole new crop that I could get. But more importantly, there's dirt under these hills. I went back to my beachhead room to make a chest of must take with me versus nice to have from looting this area, crafting up a shovel so I could go and collect the dirt a little bit faster. I'm trying to be smart here and avoiding some of the more dangerous confrontations. If I encounter an evoker here, Vex will mess me up. So I'm digging little 1-block holes through the walls, shooting anything I could find, finding a few allays who were gonna be following me around now, so I had a couple friends who were more than willing to help me escape. I grabbed the cauldrons from in all of the prison cells because that's a lot of iron I don't need to spend on that block in the future. Sleeping again just to keep it light outside so I don't need to worry about additional mobs spawning on the roof of the building. I cleared out another prison cell, getting a record and a bunch of redstone from inside, and finding the spot where all of those zombie sounds were coming from. Once I was able to clear out that space, the room got a little bit quieter and I can kind of hear my own thoughts, dealing with a creeper in another one of the prison cells and going back and lighting up the ones I had already accessed so I didn't have to worry about mobs spawning behind me. I then made my way to the very front of the building where I encountered my first Vindicator, and this person is actually dangerous. That axe can kill me in 2 hits. But thankfully, they have absolutely no jumps, and being able to just bow them down from the other side of this bone block area, this is security and safety that I desperately needed. That did get me my first emeralds in the world, which is another new item that I've unlocked, but as I made my way past the stairs, a conga line of zombies dropped down from the 2nd floor trying to fight me, and skeletons jump scared me from the opposite rooms, which were really doing some significant damage and I had to take out at range. I kept blocking off each of the new rooms as I would encounter them, getting a whole bunch of zombies making their way down the hallway, having a couple make their way from downstairs, attacking me from behind and really giving me a scare. But once I cleared those out and I picked up the bone blocks behind myself, I was able to make my way to one more door where I was able to find a whole bunch of lily pads, which is another new item that I've unlocked, and more dirt available in this room. The next day, I'm converting any bones I have into additional bone blocks, going back and crafting and picking up the ones I had, being attacked by a child along the way, mining through the back wall of the maze room, and ending up finding the room that I was here for. You see, in woodland mansions, there's a small chance of this room, which is one of the only ones with very specific chest loot, all of it being oak saplings, dark oak saplings specifically. But dark oak is still oak, and only oak trees drop apples. So this room is critical for my long-term success in Skyblock. I spent a little bit of time axing all of the zombies through the area and then immediately running in and blocking up the door, trapping the Enderman who is in here in a boat so I wouldn't get obliterated by them if I happened to make eye contact. After that, I collected all of the dirt and saplings in the room, ending up with over a stack and a half of each, which is huge. I killed the Enderman, ending up with an Ender Pearl, which is another new item and something really, really useful. And at this point, I kind of had everything I wanted. I peeked out the door, and while I'm hearing a lot of pillager sounds, this isn't worth the risk. So I returned back to my beachhead room, carefully and precisely stacked my inventory, filled it with everything I wanted to save, ended up with an advancement for collecting a whole bunch of dirt, combined the iron swords so I'd have one that was in a little bit of a better state, and ran all the way along the bridges home, ending up there just as it turned to night and banking all of the valuables in the chest. Having a route to apples and having a whole bunch of gold that I've collected from everything so far means that I can finally truly move into the economic age. All I need is 3 very specific mobs, and we need to play this very carefully. So the next morning, since I now had a route for apples and golden apples, and I struck out on brown mushrooms in the Nether, it really is just finding a witch and zombie villagers in the farm. So I immediately put down some slabs so mobs would survive the fall, killing everything that I found, trying to secure myself a witch. The storage actually completely filled up, so I had to move some of the armors off to another barrel and some of the other unstackable items, throwing them off into the void. Eventually, having a witch appear and blocking up the area, leaving scaffolding in place, so it's a little bit safer and I could access the blocked area from below instead of at the level where mobs could see me and potentially attack. After that, I did the long and arduous task of manually breaking the legs of all of the different mobs that were attacking me, expanding out the platform a little bit and throwing down some bones to make a box, and then it's time to try to move this thing. Come on. Oh, nope, nope, not good. Okay, how much does that heal? Not enough. I ran my way past the witch, trying my best to avoid the potion throw, breaking down the bone blocks, throwing more chickens to the void, and healing myself up with some golden carrots. I went and sealed up the farm for right now, broke the boat that my LA was standing in, then broke the other boat that the witch was in and lured them over to lock themselves into the box so that they couldn't poison me anymore. One step down. When I went and reopened the mob farm, I immediately started hearing multiple zombie villager growls while I was at it, so I sealed it back up and did the ankle punching route a little bit more, eventually clearing out all the mobs into the morning, where I had exactly 1 zombie villager trapped inside who I let out and into a boat directly next to the spawn platform. It's not like I've learned my lesson at all here. Breaking the upper level lets mobs fall through like a waterfall, and all the creepers hiss like they're gonna explode as they pass you. That is genuinely terrifying, I'm not gonna lie. I went through this round of mobs very carefully, killing them all by hand instead of with a sweeping edge sword, because I don't want to risk the sweeping edge either damaging the zombie that's in the boat or killing a zombie if it happens to be part of the crowd here. I can't go just based off of sounds because there is a zombie villager right next to me now, and I can't move them until the evening when they won't burn up in the sunlight. I did get some other really nice things along the way, but it took a lot of effort to organize and drop everything down into proper chests. I'm trying to get a chest full of all of the mob drops, bones, gunpowder, string, and kill all of the mobs as they're spawning so that I can get to a zombie villager really quickly. I made myself a furnace and grabbed a whole bunch of bamboo to serve as the fuel for that, burning down a lot of the iron and gold enchanted armors that didn't really have the best enchants to get nuggets, so I'd be able to get at least something out of that. Also, once the sun was low enough, I made sure to move the zombie villager over to a secondary hut right next to the witch so I could do the whole potion curing mechanic a little bit later, keeping at it the following morning because I really want to get to villagers. We're almost at the halfway point of this, and being able to get up to things like diamond tools or iron farms exponentially increases my power. I did eventually finally get one after a couple extra witches, which I don't think I need, luring them out of the farm and into a boat, sealing everything up behind them, and then spending the remainder of the time just trying to organize all of the loot instead of worrying about anything else. I need more apples at this point if I'm gonna get things going, so I put down little 2x2 grids of dirt and threw down all of the dark oak trees. This gives a lot of wood per tree, but each tree requires 4 saplings. Each tree has to give 4 saplings saplings at least, or we end up running negative. We have a lot of dark oak saplings, so we're okay for a while, but I can't have that trend continue indefinitely, or we're gonna have to go find another woodland mansion. Apples are about a 1 in 200 chance of spawning, so I'm really hoping we get one quickly. So I fell down the trees, broke down all of the wood, and once it was dark, moved the second zombie villager into the same boat as the first. This way, everything's in place, and I can put the carpet back on top of the hoppers, opening back up the farm so that everything is just dying to fall damage, and I can collect loot and XP freely. The first round of trees was slightly negative, putting me down 2 saplings from where I had started, but it's possible I missed something. I killed a few chickens to make myself some food, harvesting up potatoes and carrots to start stockpiling for eventual friends that I'm going to have floating with me on this island. The next morning, I was primarily just chopping down oak trees and bamboo. I need both of these supplies in high quantities, and I can't really unlock anything else until an apple decides to drop. There it is! Oh, I was just... Yes! Oh my god, I'm so excited. I was just about to put in my notes. All I need is an apple. So let's just go ahead and craft this up. Now we just have one last thing to do. With 2 gold apples in my inventory, I can cure both of my villager friends, and from there, go infinite. And that lets me start thinking less about the early game resource grind and more into what I want this platform to look like. I kind of walked around and started doing planning and thinking about what I'd want this all to be while I waited for evening. I didn't want to risk even accidentally burning the villagers alive in sunlight, so I wanted to do this at a time that it was completely safe. While the leaves were decaying, I ended up getting another apple, so I have a spare. And I spent a little bit more time organizing all of the loot from the mob spawner, getting myself to almost a full box of gunpowder, which I'm now making a little bit of an internal goal for myself. I had myself a quick nap because I forgot about my own rules and I'm nothing if not inconsistent, and the following morning, it's time to give this a shot. Oh, I hate this part of it. Don't you laugh. You're kidding me, that was so fast. Oh! That was like the second try. They threw it in 2 potions. I was mentally prepared for this massive, long journey of like having to spend half the day. The thing I need to be careful about now is that they don't convert at different rates and attack each other. So I'm just gonna stay here so that I have both of their focus at all times. What did they break? They broke my helmet. That's unfortunate.
5 minutes later.
Yes! I'm so excited. Right now, I'm gonna keep you all in that box and I'm going to... So with villagers now cured and safe in a box right now until I can get them a little bit more of a permanent home, I went over to the platform that had previously been the mob spawner, thinking with a little bit of decoration, this can serve as a mildly passable village. I threw down some dark oak wood in a couple different orientations just to get like a nice little bit of decoration on the floor, actually taking some of the dark oak logs and going back over to the mob spawning platform to decorate that with a proper railing so it looks a little bit more intentional and not just a mess of cobblestone. I chiseled myself some more slabs and the following morning got all of the string from the mob farm and converted that into wool and then into beds. Building out a simple 9x9 platform using the bamboo to make sticks to make a dark oak fence barrier around the whole platform so there was no risk of any villagers falling off and feeding the void. From there, I placed about a half a dozen beds so that there would be more than enough for the villagers and initial descendants, because I'm gonna need quite a few of them pretty quick. But I don't trust their pathfinding, not fully, so I made 2 boats with the thought of separating them from 1 boat into 2 that I could steer them into the village. And 1 villager got in easy. The other went on a bit of an adventure, which made me kind of, in the moment, trust the second to find their way towards a bed, with me sealing the wall behind them. And with all of that done, it's time for our 3rd age, the Emerald Age. And that all starts with making sure the villagers are well fed. So I grew a bunch of potatoes and carrots with bone meal, threw them to the villagers and watched them make more villagers. Then I turned my attention back towards my main platform, where we're going to be expanding this out from 0-0 and making a much more defined, intentional space instead of just expanding the platform randomly as I've been going. I'm using dark oak to build out a little bit more of a trim, working out the cobblestone farm to be able to get whatever I need to be able to finish out the square, working through the remainder of the day going into the following morning, where I had a few of my employees attempt to assassinate me. Oh my god. Oh, that was so close. Okay. Oh, can you imagine? They need to go in a box right now. Get in the boat. I am so thankful that I left that water there, or else I would have had no chance. Thank you, water. Oh my god. Oh, that was so dangerous. We're good now, though. We're good. Whew, we're good. With the allays now safely secured in boats, I broke down all of the bamboo area and actually started moving a lot of the dirt to an intentional farm field paddock that I would put off into the corner, replanting a lot of my crops over there and bone mealing them to be able to set the whole 9x9 grid up to be able to get a full farm harvest. I kept working on that the following morning, using some of the stone that I had and some birch to make some really nice trims around that space, making another 9x9 platform and saturating it with water, but having this one trailing off towards the grass patch I had from my starter island so I could get some grass over here and hopefully get a few more animals. I did a little bit of decoration, setting up some birch trees and some bamboo tables between them, breaking down a few of the dark oak logs that I had set up, and then breaking down all of my starter farm to be able to actually migrate the dirt over to where it needs to go in the long term. Once one of the birch trees grew, I planted the last block underneath it, so it was all the way down to the main platform, spending a lot of my bone meal on all of the root vegetables, replanting that after doing a full 9x9 harvest, and making a chest right here next to the farm where I would store and organize a lot of the crops that I've been building up for the full 100 days so far. The following morning, I planted a lot of bamboo across most of the dirt paddock on the opposite side because I need to wait for the grass to head over there, putting a little bit more on the grass itself. I also decided I'm going to use bamboo as the floor of my main bridges, setting up 5-block wide bridges with railings so I'd be able to safely traverse between the different islands that I'm creating here. But a lot of that bamboo is also turning into sticks, where I have my first employee ready to receive.
That's borderline perfect. I can get carrots and potatoes, that would be ideal.
12 seconds later.
Perfect.
Hello there.
Cat! There's a cat! Oh, so many new things are opening up.
I trapped the cat in a boat so I'd be able to secure them for later. I need to be able to get fish before I can tame them, but I'll get to that eventually. Trading in a lot of carrots and potatoes for a very lucky level 2 trade.
You sell apples! That's huge. Genuinely huge. Also pumpkin pies.
Once it got into the evening, I did clear out the iron golem, which might not have been smart, but it does give me a few extra pieces of iron right now. I need a proper farm in the near future. Heading over to the mob farm, clearing everything else out, and then breaking down all of the bamboo and the dirt path towards the bamboo paddock, as there was a few blocks of grass that had now sprouted over there and could spread over the full area. I made myself a new iron pick out of the scraps from the robot that the villagers had constructed, mining a bit of stone throughout the remainder of the evening, and then going through my chests and making a few more, starting to organize my stuff and starting to prep for an iron farm. Day 54, I'm grabbing a lot of things that might seem completely random. A bunch of signs, some ladders, a few bits of walls here and there, and a lot of bone blocks with a few hoppers underneath them that I'm going to use to do a lot of my construction here. I'm investing the few pieces of redstone all the way back from the jungle temple that I had collected, just to make a few of the redstone components, capturing another cat in a boat where I will tame eventually. I think it takes me like 10 days, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forget. But as I'm grabbing all of the components for the farm, I am making sure to do farming throughout the day, throwing a lot more potatoes towards the villagers so I could trade up on a Fletcher, and on the way back, saw somebody just coming in trying to kill me from my angles.
traitor. What the? That does mean that there's somebody up there, though, from what I can see, which is very interesting. There's 2 of you. Ooh. Jungle saplings! They're back on the menu! Oh my god, yes! I am very sorry about this, though.
Look, I needed the leather, I needed the leads. Those are really important, but having jungle saplings back on the menu, being able to create, again, with the original wood that I started this 100 days with, that feels huge. So I'm really excited about that. But I spent a bit of time over at the mob farm trying to get myself a zombie that I'd be able to secure so I could start powering a iron farm in a little bit. I ended up letting a few out and I'm just waiting to find somebody just special enough.
One of you will pick up an item. Seriously, none of you will pick up an item? You have been selected, Mr. Golden Pants. Here you go.
Once I had found a zombie that will hold an item, which is a poor man's name tag, I reset the farm so that that could continue working, clearing that out throughout the remainder of the evening, making enough bone blocks to go over the head of the zombie, and actually reinvesting some of those into the trim that I'm gonna put, both along the main outer edges of all of my main platform, as well as both of the sides of all of the bridges, moving a lot of the slabs to the lower position, so I don't need to worry about lighting them as much, as they won't be able to spawn any mobs on top, and the nice contrast of the bright white and yellow compared to the dark oak railings looks kind of nice. I then set up a bit of a temporary sugarcane farm, making sure that it was all set up in an optimal pattern, as I want to grow a lot more sugarcane to be able to use once I can eventually, inevitably, get myself some rockets and fly around this world with a set of wings. It is day 55 and I'm still primarily using stone tools, but we're going to be working on fixing that really soon. Rounding out the platform that the mob spawner currently exists on and figuring out where the edges of that will go so that I could start placing and planning for an iron farm. I had to do a little bit of work to make sure the final parts of the drop chute were finally sealed with bone blocks to make sure everything would be nice and safe, taking a quick nap and then getting to work the following day. And in building this iron farm off of a tutorial that I have on YouTube, I will have it linked down in the description as well. It's honestly one of my favorites. It's extremely small, it's compact, it does rely on a little bit of redstone to make sure the timing all works, but it does mean that it's a lot more consistent and a lot more reliable. I spent the remainder of the evening finishing building out the platform itself, even going so far of making sure that all the bone blocks were facing up so that the pattern would be nice and consistent and it would look like a nice little skull that we're cooking the iron golems in. Once it was dark enough that it would be safe enough to move my friend, I broke the boat and kited the zombie over towards the farm.
Oh no. Okay. Slight reevaluation necessary.
Since, yeah, they have a heart from the drop chute, I need to rethink this one. I killed a lot of the mobs that were in the drop chute until I got a zombie which had some sort of enchanted boots, which I'm hoping were feather falling. I broke the farm to be able to allow them to make their way back up, kiting them into the drop chute where they did finally drop into place. Once that was done, the following morning, I worked on finishing up the final details of it. Continuing to grow sugarcane the whole day, I'm getting the walls in place, making sure that I'm breeding additional villagers so we could get more that we could trade with in the near future, and eventually started seeing iron golems spawning on the platform, being led to lava by water. The only problem was I still had a lot of scaffolding still in place, so they weren't always only spawning in the killing chamber, and I had to be very careful getting the whole thing functional. Now I was afraid that that golem would prevent the farm from working. Maybe it was a bit too close, but actually we were fine, and I was able to treat myself.
Iron axe, iron sword, iron shovel, iron hoe. A
full set of iron tools. Now we're cooking. I also spent a bit more iron on some hoppers to be able to expand out and re-enable the automatic collection on the stone generation farm, going and occasionally checking, getting a few ingots every time I would go and check the farm. That allowed me to put more hoppers back inside the mob collection area, so now that could be fully automated as well. Constantly throwing more eggs off into the void and making myself a few campfires to just fully turn the mob farm into an automated killing machine. I don't need this for XP anymore. I just need it for the drops, and it can do its work now that it will collect from every place that the mobs are falling. And with iron secured and several different places now automatically generating resources for me, I turn my attention back towards the main island, cleaning up a few other things and making a bit of a different mess by planting down multiple different dark oak 2x2 grids. We have a lot of wood that we're gonna need, and I can be harvesting that while other resources are collecting automatically. The following morning though, we are not fully automated, at least not yet. I spent some time at the cobblestone farm. I crafted up a whole bunch of bamboo into slabs, and I started working on building out the pathway towards where I want the villagers to actually live long term. I want to set up like a circular skyship dock in a sense, right here just off the southern tip of the island. Instead of having them in a random spot off on the left, which is really only dictated by where a random birch tree had spawned some 59 days ago, I want a very intentional space. The only problem was it took me like 2 tries to build the circle. By the time I did that and I broke down the 1x1 cobblestone path that leads off towards the jungle temples farther to the south, that was the whole day. I had barely gotten anything done, but we're gonna make it work. I harvested sugarcane and bamboo into the evening, getting a lot of the supplies I would need before going around and breaking down a section of the dark oak trim where I'm actually gonna start building downwards to make a bit of an intentional storage space instead of just having a few chests sitting right next to where I currently have my infinite water source. That did involve building straight down, which is always very nerve-wracking having to climb down water to do that. But the following morning, I'm building out more of a platform as it started to rain, and I can actually start working on building these stairs upward with a nice bone decoration in the center of the stairs and bamboo blocks as my main wall palette with a little bit of cobblestone on the floor to utilize all of the materials that I currently have farmable. I set up a nice 5x5 section of chests using bamboo blocks to be able to craft those really cheaply, but also having to spend a lot of that to do the decorations on the walls. While working on this, I'm making sure to constantly feed my villagers so that they'll be making more villagers, and checking my iron farm is doing good numbers. Spent a little bit of time over at the mob farm collecting and breaking down things, making myself a whole lot of bone blocks so that I could use that as more building, throwing away a ton of rotten flesh, and yes, Skyblock players, I know I will realize very soon this is a stupid, dumb mistake, but I'm making it anyway right now. But I spent the rest of night 60 moving everything from the first few chests and moving it over to a proper, intentional, organized space where I could have chests that are categorized and set up to store all of the resources that I've collected in this world, starting from one little island. And that task wasn't done in a day. I was organizing more things the following morning, trying to get everything categorized into treasure or blocks or building materials, resources, potions, storing off a lot of the important things that I was still holding on to that had survived their way through the adventure so far. I had to chop a lot of trees to be able to make more chests. I'm trying to make everything double chests, going about 4 blocks high with all of this and getting everything organized. I invested the little bit of leather that I had collected from all of the llamas around the world to make a set of item frames to be able to label some of the chests. And once I finished organizing and collecting everything, it was time for a little bit of a victory lap. That evening, I spent a lot of my levels, for the first time really, combining a bunch of bows, going from level 84 all the way down to level 3 and being out of levels to combine more pieces of armor. But I finally had things like really good bows and protection for armor pieces just from everything that I've been collecting from the mobs this whole time. But that's not good enough. I mean, we've just barely got into the iron tier, but I'm already starting to think about diamond tools. I took a couple smithing tables over towards the villagers, trading with them through stone tools and then through iron, getting myself up to my first diamond tool. You know what? I will take it. Diamond pickaxes are back on the menu. Yo! Wait. I mean, diamond shovel for 4. So that's efficiency 2. A silk touch pickaxe. Oh, my friend. Having gone from stone tools to diamond in just about 3 in-game days felt pretty good. So I popped over towards the Nether, taking a lot of the bone blocks that I had collected and building over towards the basalt delta island to get myself the tiniest bit of basalt and blackstone just to complete my collection as far as blocks that I have so far. But as it rolled over to day 63, I headed towards the Midway Station Island and started building that out with bone blocks, getting it to a point where it feels a little bit bigger, a little bit more sturdy, building a secondary platform a ways away, just outside of spawning range. I'm trying to make a bit of a rudimentary gold farm. The only problem is all of the zombie piglins spawned back on the original island since that island was now outside of spawning range. So I had to build up a little tower and fight my way through a horde of mindless gold swords wielding zombies. And that was a little bit scary. I had to build bridges over each of the individual islands, making a little killing chamber along the bone block bridge that I had created and slowly building it out, throwing the children off of the edge, dealing with a few ghasts that were trying to cause me trouble here and there, and occasionally capturing the piglins that had spawned amongst the zombies and throwing them in boats or rafts to be able to throw a bunch of gold at them and start bartering. The farm is imperfect, but it's working for right now, getting myself one of the Skyblock advancements and working my way through a bit more bartering, throwing down some chests and other supplies, forgetting that as soon as I opened that chest, it would upset all of my friends that had crossbows. So it was time to head out for now. Morning of the best console ever, I used the remaining leather to make all of the item frames so that I could finish looting everything, including my treasure chest, doing a little bit of farming and checking out all of the iron farms as well, trading that to all of the villagers before focusing on chopping a few trees just so I could get more wood to be able to build out more of my overall structure. I also converted a good chunk of that into sticks, who I was able to trade to the Fletcher for emeralds, iron to the toolsmiths as well, which I could then use to start leveling up and buying myself a silk touch pickaxe, which feels pretty awesome. I also spent the time investing in other toolsmiths to be able to get other tools, picking up a really nice iron axe. It's not quite diamond yet, but efficiency and unbreaking, you can't really complain about that. That'll make chopping trees faster, but I need more villagers, so I combined a lot of string into wool for the beds, expanding out the village a little bit more and organizing myself to a full box of gunpowder. Rust me would be so proud right now. I combined a few of the pickaxes that I had collected to get unbreaking on the silk touch one. The following morning, doing a little bit of chores around the house, breaking down a lot of bamboo, taking a lot of dirt and combining it with the gravel that I had collected from all of my bartering, which can make coarse dirt, which if you then shovel turns into a path, and break that down turns it into dirt, which means we now have renewable dirt, which is actually really, really important in Skyblock. That meant that I could take my 1 block, my grass block seed at 0, save that off, do a little bit of mining at a few of the farms, and then move all of the chickens over towards the grass paddock, killing anyone who refused to get in the cage. Because at this point, it's time to add a few more things here, and the main thing I can do is start building out a bit of a water feature in the center of the island, but this will also allow me to start collecting fish and other fish-related materials, which would allow me to tame the cats that existed around my island, but it also serves as just a nice visual, a nice little pond in the center of the island. And I'm gonna admit, I spent a decent couple days on this. Water physics in Minecraft are annoying. If you know how to manipulate them, you can do some really cool stuff. Go look at the wall in the hardcore world. But if you know about that, you also know that it's extremely tedious to make a full pond of full water blocks from the top down. But while I was fighting with that, I did get a visit from another wandering trader. Oh, jeez. Hello. What are you selling? I will take some dripstone. That is farmable lava. I don't need acacia, it's over there. Mangroves over there. There's a buried treasure over there too. Thank you. Goodbye. Dripstone is actually a really lucky pull, and I will do something with that in just a little bit, but I was hyper focused on getting this central lake done right now. I eventually got it so that all the water was finally source blocked, bone mealing the bottom of it so that a lot of seagrass would grow, and throwing down my singular sea pickle that I had collected, just to make the whole thing kind of look nice. With that done, I headed over towards the kind of industrial island in a sense, setting up a few cauldrons with bone blocks with dripstone underneath them, heading over towards the nether portal to get a few lava source blocks that I could fill in on top of the bone blocks, cover with some iron trapdoors to make sure that nothing was flammable, and I now had farmable lava. But that is going to require going a little bit more industrial, so I did make a small little dripstone farm itself. It's going to be insanely slow. I only have one block to work with, but it can passively generate me additional dripstone points in time as I'm doing other things like focusing on the farms. But speaking of the farms, it was actually starting to get to the point where I kind of wanted to reduce the size of those, as the corner was a bit close to the central pond that I created. So I made a little semicircle divot out of the side of it, replanting all of the crops as the sun began to rise, and I got another assassination attempt.
Where did you come from? I just got attacked by a child.
Not knowing where that child had come from had me a little unnerved, so I'm gonna have to work on lighting on the island. But first, I made myself a few bookcases with the little bit of leather I had collected, crafting one of those into a lectern, and then taking that and the brewing stand over towards the village so I could set up some additional trade options. I'm throwing sticks in as my primary way of generating resources, and now it's time to start cycling trades on the villagers.
Oh my god, mending already? The thing is, I don't want that. What I need is very specific. There we go. Also, I can't buy that, right? I didn't think that through.
And it was here that I realized that I should have saved all of that rotten flesh that I had thrown away just about 10 days prior. Clerics would turn that into money. I'm not gonna make that mistake again. I grabbed everything out of the chests and threw that at the cleric to get a little bit more money, buying some lapis to level them up, being really, really hopeful that they would trade for pearls. The librarian offering looting is actually really good for me right now, so I'm using whatever I have around the base to generate whatever materials and emeralds I can, having one of the farmers level up and wanting to trade in melons, which would be good for me.
We'll deal with that later. Yes! That's perfect. That's not ominous at all. Oh, I should sleep. I need to sleep. What are you doing up there? A leather worker. I'm going to be honest. I'm very sorry for not hiring.
I don't want to hear a word about that in the comments. No one snitch. You got it? I'm watching you. But purchasing redstone actually made me think a lot about different things I can automate around the base, making me specifically remember that I can craft observers, as I now had all of the different components from everything I had purchased so far. So while I had that working, I wanted to clear a little bit of a space, breaking down my original infinite water source, as I now had the pond in the middle of the island, and breaking down all of the grass blocks that existed so that I could set up a little corner here to make myself a little redstone contraption. I said a piston that could set off an observer clock, which would make a dispenser spit out bone meal as fast as possible, growing a piece of bamboo to pretty intense heights. And I think you know where I'm going with this. I spent some time mining for cobblestone, starting to set up a little bit of a wood wall behind the bamboo, where I could then put an observer on top, having it identify when the bamboo hit a certain height, triggering a piston back down at the bottom, as long as I can get the redstone to make the path all the way down. And I know there's probably a much more efficient way to be able to do all of this, but okay, look, I'm not a redstone person, okay? I just built a little spiral staircase of redstone going down, doing a bit more trading in the morning to generate a lot more emeralds, so I could buy a couple more efficiency diamond pickaxes and a bit more redstone, combining everything to get unbreaking 2 on the silk touch pickaxe, and then having all of the redstone lead down so that the piston would be triggered whenever the observer identified bamboo growing to that height. Nice.
think we can do. So now if I just turn this on,
I made it too tall. Oh no!
12 seconds later.
I set up a few hoppers to collect a lot of the supplies, putting up just whatever blocks I could find on the left and right, as I know I will inevitably have to move this farm, and it was working. Automatic wood production through bamboo is honestly nice. I still need to chop down dark oak trees manually, as I don't understand any way to do something like TNT duping, but at least something can now generate in the background. The following morning, I was reshaping the other garden plot on the front half of the island, taking all of the bones from the mob farm, converting that into bone meal, and setting up a little auto loader to be able to load that into the dispenser. Also making myself a hopper minecart that I could put on rails underneath the block so that any bamboo that fell and didn't hit the hoppers would also be collected. While that ran, I made a whole bunch of stone brick slabs and a bunch of dark oak to make the proper city village platform that I want to use. I'll build the airships later, probably in 200 days at the rate I'm currently working at, but I have a really nice arch set up here, which is nice and visual, yes, but it's also going to contain the villagers onto this platform, so I don't need to worry about them wandering around. I did start making a little bit of a stone pier off of the side of it and made a little dark oak house that kind of sat in a dinky little fashion off of the circle. Originally, I was going to build like this floating multi-platform village, but I will be demoing that, don't worry. But I did like the idea of a bunch of floating islands, so I took the remainder of the stone brick to make a little bit more of an offshoot off of the front of the nether platform, and then started investing whatever nether brick I had in building a bunch of small little jump separated platforms, which I could decorate with nether materials, making a nice little roundabout curve that leads up towards the nether platform. It serves dual purposes. As my base is already asymmetrical with the industrial area off on the left, it serves a really distinct visual difference, and having glowing blocks like magma blocks or some nether wart growing there passively generates the tiniest bit of resources, but always just kind of looks nice and fits the theme. Fashion over function a little bit here. I went and I collected a lot on the crops, throwing all of that to the villagers, spending the evening collecting any bones that I could, and combining or smelting down a lot of pieces of gold armor to make myself a lot more gold ingots that I'd be able to do a bit more trading for. I made a bunch of bone blocks, and the following day continued my construction, getting to the point where I was out of nether materials, so I had to make a temporary little bamboo 1x1 path, leading myself back over towards the bartering farm, where I first had to clear out the island that I had spawned at, which involved killing a whole bunch of piglins, taking and building out a better killing chamber with a few hoppers and chests underneath me that would be able to store and collect the materials automatically, so I didn't have to worry about constantly breaking down the wall that I was using to protect myself. And if you are screaming at yourself, why am I using bamboo, a burnable material, to build this farm in the nether? Don't worry, that's a lesson I was about to learn.
holy hell, this is not good. Oh man. Are they mad at me? Yep. Yes, they are. That tells me everything I need to know. Maybe I'll leave the nether alone for a little bit. Oh my god. So with that very expensive lesson learned, I headed back to the overworld, making myself a grindstone and setting up a little bit more bamboo in the bamboo machine, chopping down a few dark oak trees while I was at it, trading whatever rotten flesh and sticks I could to a bunch of the villagers to earn a few emeralds before heading back to the island, expanding the sugarcane farm a little bit further and harvesting that the following morning, getting all of the sugarcane set up and expanded and heading over towards the village because I need a better sword.
if I'm gonna have this farm be functional. So it's time to do a bit more trading. I tried to pick up another looting book, but it was a bit more expensive. So instead, I traded with a weaponsmith who would oft on the grindstone, cycling trades until I got a sharpness 3 iron sword that I could combine a couple of to get myself a really decent one. I traded in a whole bunch of iron axes and then a whole bunch of iron, which would allow me to level them up, buying some pearls from the cleric with whatever extras I had, just so I could start preparing for the end game. Their master level trade was bottles of enchanting, which will be useful later. But I broke down a few of the furnaces that I had collected, smelting down all of the iron axes I had purchased back down into iron nuggets, just so I could re-auth and recoup a little bit of the expenses. It's not gonna be great, but it's something. I made a fletching table and a whole bunch of paper, trading that in just to earn a tiny bit more emeralds, even though it was very much not worth it, relying mainly on iron to be my resource generator here. The weaponsmith leveled up and I was finally able to get diamond axes, which is gonna be super exciting, but also diamond swords. I bought a few pumpkin pies from the farmer villager just to bring a little bit more variety back into my diet, but mainly to level them up to their master level where they're gonna sell me golden carrots instead. With that all done, I took the looting book and put it on the iron sword so I would have something to make the farm a bit more efficient, jumping along the platforms and then my dinky little bamboo bridge, making my way back over to the Nether and rebuilding the killing chamber, this time using bone blocks and cobblestone as they wouldn't be flammable, trying to avoid the same problems that I had caused for myself the first time around, making a little bit of a sawtooth drop down so that anything that had entered the killing chamber would be stuck there and wouldn't be able to run away after I hit it the first time. With that done, I set up a whole bunch of bamboo fences to lock myself in and protect myself, putting down bamboo buttons on every block on this side of the platform, making it so that nothing would spawn over here and I didn't have to worry about it. And with that mostly done, you would think I'm gonna use the farm right away, but I have a little bit more I need to do. With all of the hostile mobs spawning over here, I think this might make it so that the Nether fortress is a tiny bit safer and it would allow me to head over there. Not for resources of any kind realistically, but to mine out Nether brick. I want to use that to build out the remainder of the platforms, so it's good to have. Once I had it though, and since I'm already in the Nether fortress, I figured why don't I head over towards the spawner, using a bit of the Nether brick to spawn proof and protect the chamber right in front of the blaze spawner. I started mining out the area, but realizing that without any sort of fire protection and without a fire resist potion, being set ablaze was extremely risky. It wasn't even the blazes in the spawner, it was the stray ones that were shooting me from the other doors, constantly setting me ablaze and getting me down to 1 full heart of health, which is kind of scary. I spent a little bit of time to just close myself in, recoup, regenerate, get a few extra blaze rods before legging it back to the area that I was in, finding a chest that I hadn't looted, which had a couple gold ingots in it. Always useful. Collecting up a lot of the nether wart from one of the interior chambers and then running along the bridge back towards the gold farm. I used the gold sword I had collected to lure one of the piglins that wasn't trapped in the boat towards the edge, yeeting them off, spending a decent chunk of time killing zombie piglins, which occasionally were spawning zombies as mob reinforcement mechanics made them appear in the system, unfortunately. But with looting, I'm getting a lot more nuggets and much more frequent golden ingots from everything here. I made a few extra bamboo rafts so that if any piglins happen to spawn on this side of the platform, I could set them up for employment, smelting down all of these swords into gold nuggets to get even more in the way of supplies. I then thought what would be smart would be dropping my render distance so that the nether fortress was no longer generated and would no longer validly spawn mobs, increasing the amount of spawns on the platform, allowing me to throw a whole bunch of gold towards my piglins over here while constantly upsetting and angering the zombie piglins on the other side, killing them to refresh and re-up on my gold. I would go through each wave until it was basically only zombies in the killing chamber, taking my spoils from that run and dropping it back off with the piglins for a bit of additional trading. But I did eventually run out of sword durability, breaking my sword, which meant I had to head along the bridge and make my way back over to the overworld. And at this point, I had spent a day and a half in there, so it was getting a little risky. But I did have a full portal's worth worth of obsidian, which is really useful as I'm going to be relying on the Nether to allow me to get towards a stronghold a lot faster. Instead of having to bridge over thousands of blocks in the overworld, I can bridge over hundreds of blocks in the Nether and cover the same amount of ground, but it would require a decent bit of obsidian to make that possible. But all of my murdering of piglins had inadvertently awarded me with a new visitor the following day. Pigs! Oh, we just got pigs. That's awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I would have preferred a cow, but that's something, that's another type of animal. Biodiversity is awesome. I crafted myself up another lectern, heading over towards the villagers with a bunch of iron in hand, doing a bunch of more trading to generate a lot more emeralds. Trying to roll for mending here. I did pass up on it a couple times as it was extremely expensive the few times that it popped up, and I was feeling a little bit greedy. Plus, I invested a lot of my emeralds into diamond swords that I would be able to combine to get a higher sharpness, so I was kind of broke at the time. One thing I'm pretty set up on is levels, so I use that to repair my golden chestplate and combine all of the swords, adding looting onto it as well, having a pretty decent killing machine at my side, doing a bit more work with the bamboo machine as the sun started to set, and deciding to end the day with a bit of fishing. I tried to use some of those fish to tame a cat, having to go back and do a bit more fishing before eventually getting a pet. Shortly after that, I did remember, oh yeah, I have cats in boats. Taming one of those and breeding cats together to start working on more. They'll be useful for some farms at some point in the future. Punching the ocelot off into the void to feed that before calling it a day. I started the day by expanding out the sugarcane farm even further, having that little blob of dirt and green reeds now taking up a full quarter of the island. I spent a decent bit of time harvesting more stone over at the cobblestone generator before heading over towards the Nether platforms and building those out a bit further, continuing my little mini parkour course that I was creating that would allow me to run towards the Nether portal. I'm making sure all the jumps are just extremely easy and somewhat mindless, but are still distinct individual floating islands and really continuing to fit with the theme, throwing the tiniest bit of basalt and blackstone on one of the last ones, setting it all up so it connected perfectly towards the island, and then investing that last little bit of nether materials to make the floating island look a lot more intentional. With all of that done, I threw down a few small bits of extra lava to both light the area up and make it look like a little bit more dangerous of the Nether, and the path towards the portal is complete. Oh, that's sick. I love it. I love it so much. Now the Nether is appropriately dangerous. I ran back along the platform, replacing the corners of the portal from obsidian to crying obsidian, so I would have a bit more towards another portal before remembering, wait, I'm farming lava. I can just make obsidian here at home, getting 3 lava buckets, setting those all up with water, and getting myself another 3 pieces of obsidian, which gets me closer towards another portal. And that lava is going to be extremely important, so I moved the extra dripstone pieces from the dripstone farm over towards the lava farm, expanding that out to be a 2x3 with a bunch of additional cauldrons underneath. This will get me a whole bunch more obsidian and could make my idea of hopping portals in the Nether really viable. I grabbed a bunch of drops from all of the farms, trading that in to roll on another villager, trying to get a mending enchant for something a little bit cheaper, but ending up with Unbreaking 3 for an insanely low price. I locked that in, which meant all of my tools are gonna last their maximum duration now, throwing that on my sword, meaning I could run the gold farm for a significant period at this point. I did a bit of harvesting of sugarcane, making a few blast furnaces, which would allow me to recruit a couple of villagers as armorers, throwing a lot of bone meal into the bamboo machine, having that just work its magic. I chopped down dark oak trees while the bamboo machine did its job, attempting to cast another piece of obsidian, but actually having the water replace the lava, I've never seen that happen before. I slept to attempt to get another gift from the cats, forgetting I needed to make them actually stand up to be able to do that, plopping down the blast furnaces the following day, trying to get some decent trades, mainly looking for boots as they would be the cheapest to level up a bunch of armorers, smelting that all back down into nuggets, then trading for the chain pants, which really is extremely cheap at 1 emerald, and then chain shirts, which would then allow me to get diamond armor. It's not the best enchants. We're getting fire protection on the chest plate. We're getting some just random bits of unbreaking on some of the other pieces of armor, but it's diamond armor. I can grindstone it down and enchant at an enchanting setup here to get full proper level 30 enchants, but diamonds are extremely rare to come by in Skyblock, so this is just gonna have to work for right now. I grabbed a whole bunch of bamboo heading back over towards the Nether, making my bridge towards the mob spawning platform a little bit safer and making a whole bunch more of bamboo buttons to complete the spawn proofing on this side of the platform. Getting attacked by a ghast and this time being a little bit more prepared for that fight. Trapping a few zombie piglins inside of a boat so that they would maintain the rage while everything else was attacking me. Running the farm with the looting diamond sword, which would allow me to do so for a lot longer. Using bamboo to power some of the furnaces to smelt down swords for additional golden nuggets that I could craft into additional ingots. I got myself about 20 ingots and threw that towards all of the piglins, doing a whole bunch of bartering the following day. But with that done, I actually wanted to try to gas-proof the platform. They require a 4x5x5 space to be able to spawn in, so if I made this little waffle of bamboo slabs on top of everything, theoretically, they shouldn't be able to spawn. I did get attacked by one while I was doing it, playing the most deadly game of tennis and eventually getting the kill, leading myself out towards the killing chamber, capturing yet another employee in a boot, and then running the farm for the remainder of day 80. I exited the portal on the morning of day 81, just as the sun was starting to rise, dropping off a lot of the obsidian, having 3 portals worth. I wanted a little bit of an insurance policy though, so I cast whatever extra obsidian I could find, mining that all down, repairing a lot of my axes, and throwing a lot more bone meal into the bamboo machine so that could run to generate me a whole bunch of sticks, making myself a stone cutter so I could get a stone mason so I could actually trade for blocks as well. I converted a lot of sticks, iron, and rotten flesh into emeralds through different sources of capitalism, buying a lot of bricks from the stonemason, which would allow me to get a whole bunch more blocks and make things like big pots and flower pots as well. They bought stone, which could be useful, but they sold stone blocks of multiple different variants, some of which can be turned into slabs and others would make my farms insanely more efficient. Having multiple sources of non-flammable slab blocks, meaning that's all my bridge materials. Having them not flammable means they're safe to use in the Nether. Having them this cheap means I have more than enough blocks of what I need. I took the few pieces of dripstone blocks that I had collected, expanding out the dripstone farm so that could start generating me additional points, which I could then use to just exponentially increase the rate of the farm overall. And I spent the rest of the evening just dealing with my crops, chopping down trees that I'd be able to convert into more sticks, taking more potatoes and carrots so that the villagers would be fed and therefore make more villagers, and making a whole bunch of birch stairs to complete the trim around both of the environmental paddocks near the front of the base. The following morning, it is economy time. I did all of the trading, converting everything I had collected the previous day into almost 2 full stacks of emeralds, investing a good chunk of that into a stack of golden carrots, and then the rest into polished diorite slabs and my first set of diamond armor. This is going to make sure I'm much more protected for the dragon fight, but again, enchants are a little suboptimal here, so I went and did a bit more trading just to get myself up towards 15 bookcases, casting a bit more obsidian in the central pond, mining that up, and making myself an enchanting table with a full set of bookcases surrounding that. With that done, I made a grindstone and removed the enchants that the villagers had imbued originally onto this armor, spending a bit of lapis to get protection 2 or 3 on every piece of armor that I had to work with. At this point, I'm in 3/4 diamond with all pretty good enchants. And my gold boots have feather falling, which is kind of the most important thing that you want on boots in the first place. The following morning, it's time to go.
All right, let's see. So that is west. Like south by southwest.
That's a little unfortunate that it's like a diagonal, but that's fine. And now that I had a heading, I could do my best to kind of invoke this strategy that I had started with, going through the Nether in order to fractionally cut down the amount of distance I'm going to need to bridge over the void. So I filled my pockets, grabbing multiple stacks of paper and gunpowder, as you know I'm going to be going for wings, a whole slew of arrows, and then as many stacks of slabs as I could manage with a stack of wood along the way so I could do a bit of crafting here and there. With that done, I headed into the Nether and started bridging off to the south, getting to about 200 blocks of distance, thinking that that was probably enough where I could start to triangulate which direction I needed to go in, building myself another portal and heading over to the overworld.
All right, portal 1.
No shot. Well, that could be fun. Oh, that could be fun too.
About 100 blocks is probably not worth it, but we can try to nab that with a portal on the way back. All right, let's do this. Okay, so it's basically due west from here. Oh, and it broke. Perfect. So I didn't even need to watch it hit the void. Go west, my child.
5 minutes later.
Let's test it.
There you are.
This worked. Oh my goodness, this worked so well. Oh, there's a monument too. That's wild. So 300 blocks over. It's only like 40 blocks in the Nether. If I would have gotten all the bricks, I would have been right on top of it. I totally could have called that. I could have been right on top of the thing. Y'all wouldn't have believed me. This should take us where we need to go. Oh my god.
Honestly, that couldn't have gone better. With 3 portals exactly, I am on top of the stronghold, throwing down a bunch of torches to secure my initial spot, being very conscious that a lot of mobs are going to be spawning down here. There were a few skeletons and spiders on top of the actual portal room itself that I needed to be very careful of, making sure to shoot them all down, clearing them as the sun rose on day 84. Building out my platform, breaking down the spawner right in front of the portal, and basking in the glow of the portal ahead of me.
Oh, look, we even had an eye. Okay. Let's do this.
Heck yes! We go! We go! Oh no.
That went through the portal. Okay, that's a problem for future me.
But we're not going to be following it anytime soon, building up towards the end gateway that spawned, throwing a pearl through, and marking a location. We're not leaving here without wings, as we need to be able to traverse the void quickly. So it's time to get to work. Running across a lot of the outer end void, finding a city in the distance with a ship floating extremely low next to it, which was really good for us.
Yes! Come here, you!
Yes!
Oh, this unlocks
So much. So much. Ooh, that's nice. That's also nice. That's also nice. We need at least one shulker box. One shulker box. Copy that. Having our first set of wings and our first shulker box opens up the world immensely. There are so many new possibilities now. I spent a little bit of time just breaking down the materials on the ship, getting a dragon head, a whole bunch of end rods. But if you thought we were stopping there, oh no, 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 no. We have some end busting to do. Some people make floating trees. I make floating entities. Oh man. With my pockets full and a successful mission in the end complete, I flew my way back towards a gateway and made my way through the portal, celebrating as the credits rolled. Yes! Game beaten. We still have a whole bunch of work to do though. All right, where's the dragon egg? Ooh, that is precarious. I spent a bit of time the next morning putting everything away and organizing it. I now upgraded all of my gear to better enchanted diamond versions. I had multiple different versions of diamond tools that I had collected and a few spare sets of wings and some armor trims. So I want to make sure it was all categorized and put away nicely. I also now have a use for all of this gunpowder that I've been hoarding. So I cleaned up a bit of the sugarcane farm as well, trading with my villager to get an unbreaking book and getting a nice second roll. I threw unbreaking 3 on my sets of wings just so I'd be able to fly around a little bit safer, running around and putting some of the lanterns that I had purchased just to kind of upgrade off of torches. But since I can fly, let's fly, baby. I headed over towards the spruce island that was directly near the base, carefully breaking down each individual block of that to get myself 2 spruce saplings and the first few spruce logs in the world. I also made sure to carefully shovel up all of the snow with my diamond shovel, where I had just enough snow to make a snowman where I could then make snow blocks. From there, I zipped over towards the mangrove island that had been in the distance for all 86 days, picking up a few of the propagules and leaving the tree mostly untouched as I had everything I needed right now. I did make myself shears and then worked my way back, picking up a few of the vines from along the legs of the tree, so now I have another renewable plant source, flying over towards the acacia island, doing the same thing, carefully breaking it down top to bottom, walking away with 3 saplings and another renewable wood type. After that, I sailed downward, checking out the island for the lush cave, seeing a dripstone cave just kind of off in the distance, and a geode a bit further out, which was my next stop. Once I took care of the creeper inside, I mined up a lot of the basalt and calcite from the top, exposing all of the budding amethyst areas to allow that to continue growing outward, and flying my way back home, dropping all of those blocks off. Considering I can fly around now, I checked out the mini-map, figuring out that my stronghold was basically an underwater one with 3 ocean monuments right next to it, and the ancient city to the south is definitely calling my name. I got a unbreaking book on my second set of wings, made myself a couple of anvils so that I could use to combine and do a little bit more enchanting, and then spent the day just kind of breaking down things into sticks, whether that be bamboo or blocks, doing some capitalism, converting a lot of logs, bamboo, and rotten flesh into emeralds, trading with another villager, really trying to get mending. I frantically traded with all of the villagers to get myself up over 20 emeralds, but found out that I was a book short, so I just bought one of the bookcases right now to lock in the mending trade right away. The next morning, I did a little bit of cleanup on the island, just waiting for the sun to get a little bit higher before heading through the Nether, towards the southern portal where I had initially seen the deep dark. I hit up the giant Nether portal right there, picking up a golden apple and a few pieces of obsidian, flying my way over towards the deep dark, but but getting distracted by a couple different flower forest islands floating right above it. These would all give me a bunch of different dyes and a ton of dirt, so I picked all of that up, sailing down into the deep dark, which is neither deep nor dark when it's just floating in the void. One mistake I had made is I had only brought one shulker box with me to collect all of the loot here. I didn't realize I'd be stopping over at the flower forest, therefore taking up several different inventory slots. I picked up a lot of the materials from around here, seeing a cherry tree off in the distance and actually flying over there, getting both the pink petals and a cherry sapling before taking a look at the ancient city in the sunset and just appreciating the ridiculousness of this. I sailed around from one POI to the next, picking up mainly enchanted books, accidentally setting off a couple of shriekers in the void. Oh, that's tense. I'm in horse armor. Perfect. That's literally the thing I was most excited or most hopeful for. Getting Swift Sneak 3 is huge. I'm basically shifting all the time whenever I'm building in Skyblock, so being able to move around a lot faster while doing that is a game changer. I flew around for a bit, checking out a few of the other chests in the structure, getting some things like a couple other music discs and a few other things, including an upgraded hoe, but that was basically it. It was a bit of a quieter run, and I didn't really have the inventory space to work with here. So I flew back over towards my portal, hitting into the Nether, doing one quick rocket back over to home, sailing down to the storage room and dropping off everything before it even turned to morning, getting it all organized and put away just as the sun came up. I enjoyed my newfound crouching speed while harvesting all of the farms, taking the efficiency 4 book that I had found and putting that on my Silk Touch pickaxe so I can mine even faster. It's about now when I headed back over towards the island, breaking down that god-awful looking little house that was hanging off on the side and just making a dark oak fence surrounding the whole thing, making a single block wide bone block bridge over towards where the villagers currently are, putting fences on both sides, running back home, doing a bunch of bone meal on the roses, and upgrading all of the villagers' beds while I was at it. We have the dyes now. They might as well exist in OG luxury. As I moved all the beds over, waiting until night, which it should hopefully lead to a quick and easy migration. They travel towards their new home. I threw down all of the workstations, gave myself a nice little pat on the back for moving the villagers safely, slept over in my own bed, and the following morning, my god, it's already day 90. We are approaching the end, and I am not even close to finished with all the building that I want to get done. I spent the first portion of the day breaking down the original villager platforms, sending their golem to the void, but don't worry, they made another really quickly. But how I had chosen to set up the work blocks leads to the most awkward conversations. Everyone just kind of stands on the middle. I've introduced the concept of a Walmart parking lot on a Friday night. And if you don't get that reference, you grew up in a town big enough to have actual fun things to do. At this point, it was raining, and while I could have slept to reset the rain cycle, I was kind of afraid to do so at this point. Like I said, it's day 90, and I have a ton of building I still want to do, and let me tell you, if this video does well, there is no doubt in my mind we're doing a 200 days. But I broke down the bamboo machine, as I'm going to need to put stairs here to the upper platform that I'm actually going to be living on. And to build that, I need a heck of a lot more stone, and with efficiency, I can do that a lot quicker now, mining at the cobblestone farm while the rain passed by and it turned to night. After that, I cleaned up all of the sugarcane farm as I'm going to move it to a more permanent place, also breaking down the enchanting setup and having a nice clean area to work with. Because I have a plan. I have 10 days to do it in, but I really want to build out an awesome looking base. I slept as late as I could into the night trying to get a new cat gift, and I did end up getting some rabbit hide, but I wasn't going to be using that just yet. I broke down a little bit of the random dark oak platform I had built behind the bamboo machine and started building a set of stairs upward. I'd already sunk in the storage area, but I want it to be the kind of culvert in between a large spiral staircase that will lead up on both sides towards an upper area where I'm going to build out a bit of a botanical garden and an overall base platform with a starting starter house that I'm going to be living in. I'm using birch for a lot of the paths, so I need to plant a few trees randomly on the lower level, which is making a bit of a mess in the area that I had just cleaned, finishing out the dark oak semicircle and getting a lot of the bamboo accents and details in place. After that, I'm throwing down a lot of stone bricks and just random smooth stone on the lower levels, having it be one block lower, building out the overall square that I want to actually populate with, using everything I have, including those polished diorite slabs and a random little bits of cobblestone, doing a little bit of capitalism in the middle of the day, trading in all of the iron to be able to get a bunch of bricks, which I want to use to build out the house, making another smithing table, throwing that down, and hoping to get myself some more tools, but I did pick up a bell to terrorize the villagers. I finished out the actual platform itself, and if this looks ugly and you're thinking, why would you ever build like this? Don't worry, I'm not really. You see, this is kind of the foundational under layer of what I want to work. Oh no, the trees are on fire. My base is going to be burning down.
Hold up. Make sure this can't burn our whole platform down. Oh, oh my god, I made a mob farm. Oh no. I made a grave mistake.
This was, genuinely, I think, one of the first major combat challenges I'd had in this whole 100 days. This has very much been man versus nature, not man versus monster. But it was a very fun distraction and a nice change of pace from everything else I had been doing so far. I slept as late as I could into the morning just for a cat gift, repairing everything the following day, putting down a lot of stone bricks for trim, and then putting down layers of dirt and grass on top of all of those random blocks that I had just put down, as I want this area to be a lot more natural. I'm hoping the grass has time to spread before we get to day 100, making all of the different areas, and then having the paths be primarily birch with some bamboo accents just to provide some highlights and lowlights in the actual platform. I hid a lot of water underneath all of these stone slabs so I could plant sugarcane on the upper level, making 2 other gardens in the back corners, and then planting down a lot of bamboo on the areas that had already turned to grass. I also put down some birch saplings with flowers around them on every side, hoping that when the tree would grow, it would spawn a beehive, giving me some new friends. But I needed a whole bunch more dirt. Thankfully, I had a lot of gravel, so I was able to convert a lot of coarse dirt into regular through the path method, harvesting the bamboo so I could use that in all of the bridges, and buying things from the villagers that I'm going to actually use to build, including bricks, lanterns, and some of the chiseled stone bricks as well. I made myself another stone cutter and another lectern, which I could take over towards the villagers to get a few more employed, making a few extra beds for them and all of the veggies and tubers that would be needed to produce some additional employees. The following morning, I watched the process unfold.
Don't look at me like that.
Heading back to the main island and carefully breaking down all of the cherry leaves to get enough saplings that I could actually end up net positive, then breaking down all of the leaves with shears to collect them and all of the logs for some custom cherry bonsai that I want to build on the upper level. Once I had all of the resources for that, I upgraded the lighting on the upper level, changing it to lanterns on top of stone walls instead of having torches spammed everywhere. It's still bright enough that no mobs are going to be spawning, which is kind of the main thing, but I need to be careful about this. I made myself a shulker box, filling it entirely with rockets, as I have one last thing I want to do and one final venture away from the base before I can call this all done.
So we've built all of this, and I still have, there's the little bit of leaves up there.
I still have so much to do, but it feels weird being in Skyblock and not having oak. I feel almost like karmatically obligated to go find an oak sapling because we have everything else. This is everything else, right? So we really should find an oak tree, right? The only way I haven't been is this way. Off we go. I have a shulker worth of rockets. Oh my god, look at all the water. Those guardians would be a bit of a problem. Wait. I found another stronghold by accident. Oh, you gotta love it. Oh, this is perfect. Let's just check the chest roll here. Hey, armor trim. Flame is actually nice. Let's keep that. I know I can get oak from here, but I kind of don't want to. just found this by random chance. So off I flew in a brand new direction, hoping maybe I can find a more traditional Skyblock island floating somewhere in the clouds. I put myself on a very strict 2-day limit for this. Days 96 and 97 are when I am gonna go out and explore. So we're just gonna roll the music and enjoy one last adventure through the void. So with my adventure out being moderately successful, I mean, I did get oak, even if it's not through an oak sapling. I flew back through the Nether towards my home portal, warped back, and immediately got to work, dropping off all of the supplies that I had collected from everywhere around so far, making a small platform of stone and growing the moss to an exponential level extremely quickly, getting myself some oak logs for the trouble and another way of finding dirt. I collected all the azalea leaves as I'm going to be using those for decoration, and day 98 we are back to building because we are under the wire here. Starting to build out the frame of a house, buying all of the materials from the villagers and selling them whatever iron I could collect to be able to earn some extra emeralds quickly. I'm working through the day and through the night, just finishing the path, getting everything in place, and getting the stone brick frame set up before starting to work on the actual brick house itself. I'm elevating this even further off of the area, building out a little bit of a porch and some barrels in the front of the house, using slabs to have a nice traditional oak wood floor, as every starter house seems to do. There are bookcases in the corners, flower pots around where I could show off everything I had collected, a small patch of sand on one side and a small garden plot on the other. I made a roof out of campfires for the top of the sand area, making that look like a little bit of a workspace, doing a bit of trading with the villagers at the very last day, realizing I had locked in a luck of the sea trade on one of them, unfortunately. Thunder started to roll, the storms were coming in, but it was the end of day 99 and I wasn't about to stop. And I think that might have been the wrong decision. My house is still far too flammable, so... Oh my god! Oh my god! No! Oh my god! Okay, I'm not ending with that. With that very eventful end to what is normally the last day of this adventure, I woke in the morning of day 100, invigorated to get a whole bunch more done before we called it quits. I planted a lot of potatoes over on the side of the house, finished off the roof, threw down some final fence gates and posts in decoration form, and then quickly planted a few cherry trees on the lower platform, not being what I had planned, but being what I could still spare with the time. I went over towards towards the Nether island, building a little catching cup underneath it and breaking the block underneath the dragon egg so I could collect and store that directly in front of my house, breaking down the cobblestone farm that I'd used to build so much of this place just to clean up the main platform as I carefully moved my cat inside so they wouldn't be struck by lightning. I cleaned up and secured the final few dark oak trees, made a few armor stands to place all of the armor sets that had gotten me through this adventure so far, planting some small little garden paddocks on the other corners, and then taking the armor trims I had collected through my adventure and adding some diamond details on top of all of my armor. And with everything done, I took to the skies. Hard to believe that 100 days ago, this is just one dinky little island. We've made so much already, and this is like not even close to what I would consider done. In fact, I had so much bigger plans for all of this. I still want to keep working on this world because I don't know about you, but it feels like we're just getting started. So as I placed down my final few blocks and headed into my house for one final night of rest, I realized this might not be the ending. And for a change, this might just be the start. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to check out the world, a download is available on my Patreon. You could join the amazing people you see on screen right now if you go and support. For the first time in a long time, everybody, thank you for checking out episode 1. I think we'll be back in this world pretty soon. Take care of yourselves. Be good to each other. Goodbye.